Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, children of all ages, we're back. It is Thursday. Happy Thursday morning, upstate South Carolina. Hello, America. What's up, world? Great to be back with you. What's shaking? How's life? How's everybody except Lonzo, who's just terrible right now?
Nope.
Nope, like you're not terrible, or nope just to life in general?
I just can't even, man.
I just can't even. I just can't even. We're gonna spend quite a bit of time just getting Lonzo through it today. He's been struggling for a few days now. Thought he was back from the dead. And today he has rejoined them. So, it's gonna be a fight. But this morning, Lonzo walked in. He tapped the "Play Like a Champion Today" sign hanging over the door. He walked in. He looked at his reflection in the big window. He flexed like Hulk Hogan, showing off the 18-inch pythons, brother. And he's going to get through it. We're all going to get through it together. 4 hours of sports talk, entertainment, mediocrity coming your way right this very second. I am Rob Brown. He is Lonzo. We are glad to have you guys along for the ride. Should you wish to be a part of the program, there's multiple ways for you to do that today, and we hope that you will take advantage of them. First off, our Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas phone line is up for you. 844-326-3663. 844-FANFONE. The text line is open for you today at 71307. 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the air. You can tweet X post me at The Rob Brown Show. You can tweet X post Zoe at Lonzo Onward. You can tweet X post all of us at The Fan Upstate, should you like to come at us in that direction. You can, if you're feeling froggy, email me this morning. My email is always open, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. If you got something that's a little more long-winded, but you don't want to come on the air, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. There's all the different ways to get in touch with us this morning. And obviously, the big story of the day is Nick Saban calling it a career after 17 seasons at the University of Alabama. Nick Saban arrived in Tuscaloosa the same year that Rob Brown became legally allowed to consume an alcoholic beverage. I am now inside of a couple of months away from 39 years of age. And Nick Saban is just now calling it a career at Alabama. And I would say he had a decent run, I think.
He's all right.
Yeah. He had a decent run. He ends up with enough national championship rings that he has to wear one on every finger of a whole hand and two on the other. Wins natties in 03, 09, 11, 12, 15, 17, and 2020. He won the conference where it just means more 11 times in 2001, 3, 9, 12, 14, 15, 16, 18, 20, 21, and 23. If you're keeping tabs on all the hardware, he also won the MAC back in 1990. He won the SEC Western Division 12 times. All but one of those did he go on to win the SEC as a whole. He is a two-time Paul Bear Bryant Award winner, a two-time Walter Camp Award winner. He is a George Munger Award winner, a Bobby Dodd Award winner, a two-time AP College Football Coach of the Year, a two-time Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year, a one-time Home Depot Coach of the Year, a Sporting News Coach of the Year, a Liberty Mutual Coach of the Year, a Bobby Bowden Award winner, and a five-time Southeastern Conference Coach of the Year. Now, I could be, should I want to be, and I'm not saying I won't, I could be a little twerp right now. I could be a little twerp right now and say, me wonders if Bama getting in was maybe them trying to give Nick Saban one more ring on the way out the door. But that would be being a twerp, and I won't do that.
Okay, I will say that is the first thing I thought this morning when I saw the news.
I'm not a twerp.
Okay, I think
Common thoughts.
I think a lot of people think that. So,
I could be a twerp and say,
I don't know. I mean, twerp seems to have negative connotations. Call me what you will. I don't care.
twerp is absolutely a word that comes with negative. Geek, dork, nerd, all of these things have been commandeered. They have all been repurposed. They have all been taken back by those who the label has been applied to. No one wants to be a twerp, all right? I'm fine to be a geek, fine to be a dork, fine to be a nerd. I'm all those things. I admit them readily. Nobody wants to be a twerp.
All right, I'm confused because to me, twerp is like some little shady guy.
I think that twerp is more someone who is annoying and also does it pedantically. Like, you're not just annoying, but you're annoying in a very specific way. You're annoying in the way that it's just like it's needling. You little twerp, right? No one wants to be a twerp. And I risk being a twerp by putting out there a question that popped into my brain, and I will acknowledge that it was one of those thoughts that I did not welcome into the noggin. I don't want to be the way that I am most days, honestly.
Does it lessen your anger, your ire, all the things that you feel about Florida State not getting in if you believe, think, whatever, have a twerp moment and believe that that's why they let him in?
It doesn't. Because, the Nick Saban is, and I will stand on business when it comes to this, Nick Saban is the best college football coach of all time.
Does anyone else in the game today have that kind of power? If his press conference actually got them in, which you can't help but think that a little bit, whether it's twerpish or not, does any other college coach have that kind of power?
Not only will I Darby Allin that with a nope, but I think on top of that, and again, it's easy to say stuff like this. It's speculation at finest. I don't know that anybody will, because I think the only way you earn that kind of power is by kicking everybody's ass for a decade and over a half. That's the only way you get there. Nick Saban doesn't have that power without 16 straight 10-win seasons under his belt. Without 7 national. Nick Saban alone at one school, forget all the schools, Nick Saban alone has more national championships than most of the biggest names in college football have conference championships. Hell, then most of the biggest names in college football have divisional championships.
All right, my second thought, I don't know if it's twerpish or not, you'll have to let me know.
I certainly will.
Was, okay, here's what they're going to do. They're going to replace McAfee with Nick Saban because of all the controversy going on with McAfee, whether it's made up or not. They replace him with Saban. He's already been on the set a bunch.
I don't think so. I don't think listen, Nick Saban is going to go into the media. I don't think any of us have a doubt about that. We're going to see Nick follow the Urban Meyer path, except for it's going to be different and better. Okay?
Urban Meyer ain't that bad on TV, but you absolutely hate him.
I'm not disagreeing. He actually isn't bad.
And
But
he might be eyeing the crowd. There's a blonde.
Correct.
There's a blonde. There's a blonde.
I got to tell you, he's also like, he's boring to me. But it's not geared towards make Rob happy.
Well, and you have disdain. So, I mean.
No, I think even if I did like him, I would still find it. There are people I like in media that I still find boring as broadcasters. I think Nick has such a unique perspective on football and life that not only is that guy going straight to the TV desk, maybe he and Miss Terry take a year off to travel the world. Maybe we get the documentary, The Nick Tater Goes to Italy or something, which I'm all in for. But yes, I think Nick's going to end up on TV probably in the next 2 or 3 years, and he's going to be the most sought after college football talker in America, without a doubt. And he steps away from football with a footprint that I don't think, not that there'll never be a great coach, not that there'll never be another great coach. There will be plenty of great coaches between here and wherever college football ends up going. But I think that, especially in the age of the 12-team playoff, I doubt we're ever going to see anybody match up with Nick, not because we'll never have another coach who is an X's and O's guys like Nick, or a preparer like Nick. That's not a word, but shut up. Or a strategical genius like Nick, or a motivator like Nick, or a guy who coaches his kids not just to win, but to be winners. I have been asked multiple times over the last handful of years, how the hell does Nick Saban keep doing it? And I have your answer. It's because Nick Saban does 2 things. Well, 3. I narrowed it down to a few, and I'm going to say there's 3. Number 1, Nick Saban's program is Nick Saban's program. This is what we talked about yesterday, and we're going to talk about this later on when we talk Carolina football. You heard yesterday the quote that we played you from Hayden Hurst, who said when it comes to BY, Hayden Hurst said he thinks a lot of the problems were that there were too many voices in his ear. There were too many chefs in the kitchen. So he never really got, this is the path we're going down, BY. There was none of that in Nick Saban's office. Nick Saban would go hire guys who had been head coaches at the highest level for 4, 5, 6, 10 years and needed a revamp and a rebrand, and they would come to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. But when they got there, they were not welcome to show up and start making changes. It was Nick's show. The second thing that Nick Saban did, and I think the second most important thing that Nick Saban did, Nick Saban, unlike some other coaches, not that I'm naming any in particular, Nick Saban would complain about the changes he didn't like coming down the pipe in college football. He would say, are we sure we want to do this? Are we sure this is what we want college football to become? And when the college football world looked at Nick Saban and said, cram it, old man, what did Nick Saban do? He became the best at that thing. Do you guys remember? I'll take you back to 2013, 2012, somewhere in that ballpark. All of a sudden, college football was seeing the return of the fun and gun, the 5-wide. Every play was shotgun. We were just wide open, full throttle offenses, and the game was starting to cater towards that. And Nick Saban got on a mic and he said, is this what we want college football to be? Is this what we want this sport to be? And the college football landscape looked back at the Nick Tater and said, yup. And he went, all right. Cool. Sounds good to me. And so then what did he do? All of a sudden, he started bringing in the DJ Moores He started bringing in the Jalen Waddles. He started bringing in the Devontae Smiths. He started bringing in these cats, and he switched Alabama. Classically, a big, mauling, we are just going to push your face and other various body parts into the dirt and run the hell over you. With guys like Mark Ingram, all of a sudden, Nick Saban's got a 5-wide Alabama offense, and they are just killing you on the outside. And then a couple of years later, here comes the transfer portal. And Nick said, are we sure we want this to be a mainstay in college football? And the world said, cram it, old man, before you get left behind again. And Nick Saban said, okay. And then all of the sudden, what did you see? You started seeing former upper 4-star and 5-star recruits that you were all jacked up about getting into your program. All of a sudden, the Nick-tator's on the phone going, hey, I just lost a 5-star left tackle. Hey, 5-star left tackle at XYZ University. Would you like to come down to Alabama and win a national championship? And they said yes. And all of a sudden, all the folks who told Grandpa to stop yelling at the clouds was watching Grandpa step in and snag your 5 stars away from you. Guys that were already in your program. He constantly said, is this what you want college football to be? And when the college football world said, yes, it is, then he became the best at that thing. It didn't matter what it was. He became the best at that thing, and he killed you with it. And then there's one more thing that Nick Saban did. And to me, as important as those last two things were, number one, he ran a very tight ship. He made sure that his program was in his vision, and he brought in a bunch of dudes who were committed to that vision. And he said, I'm going to help you succeed. When you leave here, when you go take another job, you will be in the best position to get that job. But while you are here, this is my program. And people listened, and he was successful. Number two, he asked, is this what you want college football to be? And when the world said yes, he became the best at that thing every time. But there is one more thing that Nick Saban did that, to me, exemplified Alabama. There is one more thing that Nick Saban did that, to me, made Alabama. And there are some other coaches who do the same thing. But I think Nick did it better than anybody else. And I'll tell you what that is when we come back here in just a minute. Because I think it is something that a lot of college football coaches try to emulate. And very few can do it like Nick did. I'll tell you what that is when we come back. The great Alonzo is on the ones and twos. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rob Brown. It is ever so wonderful to have you here on a Thursday. We got Rashad Beard coming up in a couple of hours. Lonzo is fighting to make it to Fight Club. If he doesn't fall out of his chair between here and there, we'll talk wrestling. We got it all coming up on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Wesley, James, welcome in, fellas. Great to have you guys. Yep, I got Clemson's third loss on the cheat sheet this AM. We're going to be talking some college hoops because for the second night in a row, 2 top 5 teams lost to 2 unranked teams, including your 2017 college football national champions, the UCF Golden Knights, knocking off the Rock Chalk Kansas Jayhawk. We may also bring up the fact that my New Orleans Pelicans went on the road to Golden State and dropped a 40-piece on them.
Wish they would have dropped 50.
I mean, if you go into Steph's house and beat him by 40, I think you got to be pretty happy with that. Can I tell you who I think is about to kind of kick the college football world in the teeth because of Nick Saban retiring? Lane Kiffin and Mike Norvell.
Listen, Rob, everybody knows that Dabo's
Really about to talk about that.
I mean, everybody knows that.
Dadgummit. Real quick, grab another can. It's quick.
Oh, you need to hurry.
I will.
Sorry, I'm barely hanging on here.
Look, I got new zipper boots. Good zipper boots.
Shiny. Did you buy them at Costco?
No, I did not. These are my Christmas gift from the lady friend because my dog ate my old ones. Or sorry, her dog ate my old ones. The Rob Brown Show carries on. We are discussing the retirement of the greatest to ever do it. Nick Saban, greatest college football coach of all time, steps away yesterday after 17 seasons at the helm of the Crimson Tide. His first coaching job came all the way back in 1977. That's, and this is mathematically true, a long time ago.
I'll say you're about to make me angry probably when
You were born. What are you talking about? You were born in 1977.
Oh yeah, I was 9. Maybe?
Yeah. I was not. I was not born in 1977. In fact, not only was I not born, I don't even know if my parents had met yet in 1977.
I will tell you, I had no idea who Nick Saban was back then. So.
I'm sure a lot of people didn't. That's why he had multiple jobs he was let go from because they didn't know who he was going to be.
Even when he come to coach for Ohio State, no idea who he was.
So I told you that there are multiple things that Nick Saban did that, to me, made him the best. All difficult things to do, but things that if you get them right, you're going to be in good shape. I told you, number one, I think Nick Saban, maybe more than anybody else, had 100% control over everything that happened in the program. Now, granted, it's much like a superstar on a basketball team. The only way you get to the point that you are the unquestioned voice in a room is for everybody else in that room to know that you're the best at that thing. Guys like Kobe, Brady, those are the kind of guys that can walk into a room and everybody else shuts up because whatever that guy's got to say, that's the most important thing to be said in this room. Saban was at that level. It's hard to get there, but part of staying there is that. The second thing he did, he constantly updated himself. He constantly said, what is college football today and what's it going to be tomorrow? And he made sure that he was the best at what it is today and he was prepared to be the best at what it is tomorrow. But there is one thing that Nick Saban did in the college football world better than anybody else. There's going to be a lot of schools that tell you this is what their head coach does. And the overwhelming majority of those people are wrong. You guys know that when it comes to sports, when it comes to athletes, when it comes to coaches, I don't really like to get into the mushy, soft stuff. I don't like to get into the intangibles, as they're so frequently called. Because I think when you get into the intangibles, you are getting into an area of subjectivity that it is very difficult to qualify and quantify. And I don't like that. All right. It's just a personal flavor, but I don't like it. But I have been around Alabama. I have been around people who have coached at Alabama. I have been around players who have played at Alabama. I have been around the families of players that have played at Alabama. You guys remember Roman Harper played at Alabama, went on to play for New Orleans, spent a couple of seasons here with the Carolina Panthers? You guys remember that guy? His brother, Brian Harper, is a dear friend of mine. I have been around Roman since Roman was at Alabama. I still, a couple of times a year, end up in a conversation with Roman Harper, now with the SEC network. By the way, a guy I like. I like Roman a lot. I need to get him on the show, as a matter of fact. I just thought about that. That was dumb. I should have called him last night. Anyway, point is, I've been around these guys. DJ Moore, for about a half a decade, held the overwhelming majority of wide receiver records at the University of Alabama. I played high school ball with him at Choctawhatchee High School in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. His family and I were close. I was close with DJ all the way through his Alabama career, all the way up till the time he went to the NFL. His brother Magic is a friend of mine. When I see Magic when we go home, we catch up. I've been around this. I have had, and this is probably 100% true, and probably an indictment of me, but it is what it is. I was closer with the Alabama Crimson Tide program when I was working down in Florida than I am with the Clemson or South Carolina programs here. Now, granted, I've been around those programs or that program for 12 cumulative years. I've been here for just over 3.5. But here's what I can tell you about Nick Saban. Nick Saban does not coach his players to win. The hell does that mean, Rob? Nick Saban does not coach his players to win. He coaches his players to be winners. There's a difference. There's a difference. There's all these commercials going on right now about Kobe Bryant and the Mamba mentality, right? This is the year of the Mamba, says social media trends. The Mamba mentality is just the Kobe Bryant way of saying being a winner and refusing to be anything but a winner. If you ever get the opportunity to have a conversation with guys who went through and succeeded in that program, they come out of that football program with a mentality that not a lot of guys have, man. They come out of that program with a mentality and attitude towards competition that most people don't have. And a lot of fans in college football are going to tell you, well, that's what our coach does. Our coach teaches them to be great young men. And I am here to tell you, as somebody who's been around this game for a very long time, I feel like I'm old enough now to say I've been around the game for a long time. I can tell you 9 out of 10 of you are wrong. It's a good show. It's a good dog and pony show. It's a great thing to tell the parents and the grandparents of recruits. I'm going to teach your kid not just how to be a winner, but how to be a competitor, how to be a good person, how to have a great attitude. It's a recruiting pitch. Nobody's ever going to look at the parent of a 5-star receiver and go, I'm going to bring your kid to my school. I'm going to utilize him for all the talent that he has to win as many games as I can, to make as much money as I can. And then when he can't give me anything more, I'm going to kick his ass to the curb. And it turns out not a lot of parents are going to go for that pitch. The reality here is that very few coaches understand, I think, and it's hard to do because it takes a little while to instill that. It takes a little while to get to a point where that is the reality of your program. It takes a little while to get there. It's tough to do. You will remember that when Nick Saban moved over to the University of Alabama, in his first season, he lost 6 games. He lost 6 games. In his second season, he lost 2 games. His third season, he lost no games. It takes some time to instill that. Most college coaches that go into, by the way, earlier I said DJ Moore when I was talking about my heads on sideways. It was DJ Hall, not DJ Moore. Sorry. He and his brother Magic Hall both came out of Choctaw. DJ Hall was the wide receiver.
Thank you. I was
Alabama.
wondering. I didn't think DJ Moore
that's
was
my
that
bad.
old.
I got into a hurry. DJ Hall. I played high school football and basketball with him at Choctawhatchee High School before he got recruited to go play at Alabama, where he played wide receiver and held many of their wide receiver records for, well, really just a couple of years, because that was around the time that college football kind of started moving towards being a much faster, more wide open game. And Bama started transitioning with it, actually ahead of it. And that's when they started bringing in those big-time wide receivers down the line. But DJ Hall was the guy I played with. That's my bad. Anyway, point here is Nick Saban, when he brought guys in, yes, he wanted to bring in the most talented football players that he could find. But, and I think the majority of guys that played for him and had success, and I can say this because I've been around a lot of them over the years. When you talk to these guys about Nick Saban, and you talk to them about his coaching style and all that, the overwhelming majority of the guys that played for Nick Saban that I have spoken with over the years, they don't talk about Nick's X's and O's. They don't talk about Nick's tactics. They don't talk about, well, these are the things he says in the locker room, or this is the way he draws up these plays, or this is how he watches game film. They want to talk to you about the way that Nick Saban talked to them. They want to talk to you about the way that Nick Saban instilled in them that they were the best. You wouldn't be here if you weren't the best. Only the best get invited here, and only the best can stay here. That has been the operating MO for Nick Saban the entire time he's been in Alabama. And again, I think there's very few coaches in America that actually truly understand that. I'm going to tell you, one of the reasons that a lot of Bama fans you're going to hear today, it's not going to happen. We're going to talk about this in the next segment. But one of the reasons you're going to hear a lot of Alabama fans today be clamoring for Dabo Swinney is not because he's a Bama guy. It's not because he understands the meaning of football to that school and its fan base, but because Dabo is one of the very few college football coaches who don't just preach, I've got to make sure the mentality of these kids is good. That these kids not only show up and believe in the program, but believe in themselves, believe they are winners, act as if they are winners. You got to instill that in the kid. And I think Dabo gets that. I think a lot of coaches are going to tell you they do, but it's hard to do. And it's especially hard to do now. Yesterday, we talked about Jim Harbaugh at Michigan and Ryan Day at Ohio State. Ryan Day's lost 3 games to Michigan, and there's a not insignificant number of Buckeye fans who are ready to move on from Ryan Day because he's lost to Michigan 3 times, right? Jim Harbaugh lost to Ohio State 5 consecutive years, and Michigan was ready to move on from him a couple of years ago. The only reason they didn't is because the president of the university wasn't going to let it happen. And then we rolled into the COVID year, and they damn sure weren't going to make a move then, because who knew if college campuses were ever going to reopen again? I really do believe, had COVID not happened, Jim Harbaugh would have already been back in the league. But when it happened, most schools did not want to make any massive changes to their program because we didn't know what college football was going to look like. Here's what I'm saying. Patience is a dying virtue amongst college football fans, yeah? Like, we all know that. You win now or you get the hell out is the mentality of a lot of college football fans. And so if you are a coach stepping into a role, especially at a program with the weight of Alabama or Ohio State or Michigan or Georgia or LSU or Texas or USC, if you are a college football coach stepping into one of those roles, you're on the clock from the minute you put the key into the office door for the first time. You're on the clock. You have to produce results. And in a situation like that, when your back is against the wall, not just to perform on day one, but to perform on day 101 and 201 and 501 and 1001, knowing if it gets sideways, you're done, no matter the legacy. Most college coaches will talk a good game, but they are going to bring a kid in and coach him to win, not to be a winner. I need to get the most I can get out of you. I need to get the most out of you that I can get out of you now. And when you don't have any more, I need you to get out so I can bring in another kid that does. Part of the reason that so many of us have been on board with the NIL and want to see these kids get paid is because we see it for what it is. It is a machine that brings in players, squeezes every drop of talent and ability out of them, and the minute they're dried up, they are gone. They're gone. And for many of them, that's it. That's the end of the line. So let this kid make some money while he's got the opportunity. Like 1.7% of college football players are going to the league. So let him have it, right? Nick knows that. Nick's known that for years, and he's seen that. So what he does is he says, I'm not just going to coach you to be a successful college football player. And you will be. Just about every football player who played for just about every football player who played for Nick Saban at Alabama won at least one national championship. Do you understand what it must be like as a recruiting pitch to say, hey, about 92% of the players who ever played for me won a natty? Right? That's ridiculous. Nick Saban won a natty on average at Alabama. What was it? Once every 3 or 2.5 years? That's a ridiculous number. You could, without lying, tell an Alabama recruit, if you come play for me and you play 4 years for me, you will win a national championship. It is a guarantee. Right? He taught these kids to be successful college football players, but to be successful people. A lot of college coaches, you come in, they wring every drop of talent out of you, and then you're gone. And what happens to you after that? Good luck, man. Good luck. I hope that you do something here that you can go to Bob's Used Cars for the rest of your life and show up once a month and sign some autographs as former blank YU University star. But you got to go. Versus a guy like Nick Saban, who said, when you're done here, you can go be Mark Ingram or Roman Harper or any of the litany of former Bama guys who own a ton of businesses around Tuscaloosa, around the state of Alabama. I've worked with a lot of them. That's a hard thing to do. It is difficult to do that. That is why Nick Saban is one of the very few who do it well. Like I said, I think Clemson needs to recognize the value that Dabo Swinney's one of those guys. That's why you're recruiting, even after multiple bad, I'm air quoting that, bad years, you're still cranking out a great class. It's because once you do that enough that it becomes obvious that that is the reality, not a recruiting pitch. Now it's easier to have parents go, yeah, son, I know you want to go play at wherever, but I think Clemson will be good for your future, right? I think Clemson will be good for your future after football. Whether it's after the NFL or after 4 years on campus, Dabo will have you ready for your future. Nick was better than anybody else at that, and he's got 7 titles to show for it. All right, let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, one more set of thoughts on this, and it does involve Clemson because, yes, you did start seeing the articles coming off of the hard drive from a bunch of goobs yesterday going, Dabo's next. It's Dabo's job. Listen, I'm not saying he's not, but I got a real good list of reasons for Dabo that he should not. We'll talk about that when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right, guys. Good morning. Happy Thursday. Thanks for coming by. I'm going to step away for 45 seconds. I'll be right back. Thanks for hanging in there, y'all. If Clemson wants to remain relevant, they should let Dabo go to Alabama. Ooh, that's big. B-Digits, welcome in, big dog. Good to have you, pal. BTR, welcome in, brother. Good to have you, my man. Appreciate you coming by, as always.
card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's corporate cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/free. Ramp.com/free. ramp.com/free.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Charles Barkley in a pickup game.
We'll take Barkley.
First pick. Sorry, kids. Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision?
Okay, here's the plan. Pass me the ball every time.
This is banking reimagined.
Not asleep, dude. I wish I was. I wish I was.
Lonzo is struggling today.
I'm seriously considering going home, but I'm hoping to get my first win. Not my second win, but my first win.
He just wants a win.
Yeah, because I haven't got the win yet. I wish I was over here blissfully snoring. That would be awesome. Probably would get me in some kind of trouble, but
So, of course, the rumor mill has begun a churning as to who it is that will attempt to fill the mountain-sized boots of one Nick Saban at the University of Alabama. And there are a handful of names out there that make sense. Let's start with this, what I consider to be fact. Alabama is, because of Nick Saban, Alabama is the most prestigious job in college football. Period. Full stop. End of sentence. End of argument. End of debate. There are many that compete to be amongst the most prestigious jobs in college football. But Alabama is, based on the success that they have had over the decades. And I'm not just talking about Nick. I'm going back to the Bear and all the guys that have been in between. It is the most illustrious job in college football, which means that Alabama, even though I suspect nobody wants to be the guy to follow the GOAT. It's a tough job, yeah? They are still going to get their pick of the litter as far as the top-notch coaches. I have already seen this morning as I perused the college football message boards like the psychopath that I am. I have already seen people at Oregon saying, we got to re-sign Dan Lanning right now. Somebody get the AD on the horn. I have seen FSU fans saying, somebody go give Mike Norvell $1 billion to keep him here. People are panicking because they believe, and probably not incorrectly, do the Alabama fans, that they can have whoever it is that they want. And of course, one of the names that has been popping up over and over again is Dabo Swinney. A lot of folks believe that Dabo is a genuine candidate to take that job. And let me be clear, he definitely is. I have no doubt that Bama's AD will be in contact with Dabo Swinney to say, hey, look, have you had enough of Tyler from Spartanburg yet? Have you had enough of the Clemson message boards asking, is the dynasty done and dead? Have you had enough of the fans that are saying, you've lost the mojo? You've lost it. Would you like a change of scenery? Would you like to come to a place that you will be revered as a god simply because you occasionally sport a houndstooth polo shirt? And Dabo will likely entertain that phone call. But there's a list of reasons that it's not a good move. Number one, and chief amongst them, what is the number one reason that people think Dabo's fed up at Clemson? The fans, right? Hell, he himself said that. He said, granted, it's only 1% of the fan base, but I don't think you feel the need to grab a mic and pop off on 1% of a thing being bad, right? I think Dabo's frustrated with a lot of Clemson fans, and it's understandable. You got spoiled. It happens to every major football program. You get spoiled. You spend some time at the top of the mountain, and all of a sudden you forget about all the days that you spent toiling around at the bottom of it getting ready for the climb. You're up there now. And you don't think you're ever going to get knocked off. You will. Everybody does. Don't forget, before Nick Saban in Alabama, you had Mike Price getting dinged up for getting caught at a strip club in Pensacola, Florida. It happens. Yeah, it happens. So I think that there is, to some degree, a bit of frustration for Dabo going, hey, do you guys not remember what you were before we got here? Before I took you to the mountaintop, before I took you to the promised land? Do you not remember? Alabama has been on top of the mountain for almost 20 years now. The reaction from Alabama fans, if they are knocked off, if they have to go back, instead of being the standard, to being one of the group of potential national champions every year, the reaction from them is going to be violent. Think about it this way. How many years was Clemson considered one of the standard bearers of college football? 6? Like 6, 7 seasons they spent as kings of the ACC. 6, 7 seasons they were considered a contender every single year. And think about the reaction from guys like Tyler and Spartanburg. Now, I want you to think about the reaction from Jim in Tuscaloosa. If somebody shows up and in the wake of Nick Saban, which, by the way, is already bleeding away top-notch prospects who wanted to play for Nick Saban and now can't, imagine what Jim in Tuscaloosa is going to say. Imagine what the guy who calls and goes, hey, coach, I got 2 dogs. One's named Bear and one's named Bryant, is going to give you when he calls in. Tyler from Spartanburg is going to sound like the nicest guy in America compared to Billy Bob from Provost, Alabama, who's upset because Dabo came in and he went 10-2, and that just ain't good enough, Paul. Paul, we deserve better, Paul. So probably not the best idea. If for nothing else, that. I think you've got a better shot if you're Dabo at just kicking the tires and getting Clemson back into the mix than you do about going to Alabama, even with the resources. And yes, they have more resources than you, but you ain't Nick. Ain't nobody Nick. And if you expect to walk into Nick's office and have the same success that Nick had, I don't care if you're Dabo Swinney or Ryan Day or Mike Norvell or anybody else. It is going to be a challenge. Taking Alabama from where they are now back to the top will be akin to going to Nebraska now and taking them back to the top. Because 10-2 for Alabama fans right now is the bottom of the barrel. That's the worst. The worst. It's 5-7 at Nebraska is the same feeling Bama fans have. You might get paid more. You might get the same full control over the program Nick had. But the expectations are championship and nothing else. And the fans there are rabid. I worked around them for a long time. It drove me out of my mind. All right, we'll talk more about this later on in the show. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to hear what a player playing hurt but still reaching championship heights sounds like, listen to this.
Yeah, I don't know about that. It's the end of an era in Tuscaloosa after 17 seasons at a national championship. College football legend Nick Saban is retiring. Saban got his first coaching job at Syracuse in 1977 and his first head coaching job at Toledo in 1989. Along with his 7 national championships, Saban leaves with 11 SEC titles, 2 Bear Bryant Coach of the Year trophies, 2 Walter Camp Awards, a George Munger Award, a Bobby Dodd Award, 2 AP Coaches of the Year Awards, 5 SEC Coaches of the Year Awards, and a litany of other hardware. 2 more top 5 teams fell to unranked squads last night. Number 3, Kansas took the L on the road at UCF, and Mississippi State dropped one, or Tennessee dropped one to Mississippi State. Yeah, I just need to go home. Probably do. Dude.
You want me to do the flashes?
Nah, man. I
don't mind doing them.
You're doing everything else.
I don't mind. It's reading. That's one of the few things I actually am good at.
Yeah, no. If I let you do that, I might as well go home. So, I mean, because
It's up to you, man.
Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Just go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel.com. 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 If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of businesses.
I don't know why I did that. That is the wrong thing.
Like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires Hardware Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to move everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to run. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
Seems like 4 out of 5 employers who post the job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Love the new car, but how did CarPro.com with my new friend? Oh, honey, CarPro.com is the easiest, most wonderful way to learn a car. I love
CarPro.com. You now have a friend in the car buying business, and it doesn't suck. And it's free.
It doesn't suck.
Our professional parts people test your battery for free below one thing. Together, millions of things for our planet. Resolve to recycle more. Recycle paper, bottles, and cans directly. And recycle old clothes by donating more. When we each share one thing, it becomes a million things for our planet. What's your one thing?
Sometimes I struggle with the decision. My body stops in a day, but my mind is still running. So I take Z-Quil.
Z-Quil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and I'm ready to take on anything.
Better days start with Z-Quil nights. Explore our products at zquil.com.
QC in the first break.
You see in the first break. Skrillo, what's up, big fella? Welcome in. And away we go, ladies and gentlemen. The second hour of the Rob Brown Show is underway. Welcome in. I am Rob Brown. The great one, Lonzo, is on the other side of the metaphorical glass. We are ever so glad to have you along for the ride today. If you'd like to be a part of the radio broadcast now, amigos, is a spectacular time to do so. There's multiple ways. First off, the Renewal by Anderson to the Carolinas fan phone is open for you at 844-326-3663. 844-FAN-FONE is the call-in number. You can text us at 71307, Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the air. You can tweet X post us at The Rob Brown Show, at Lonzo on Word, or everybody at The Fan Upstate. All the different ways to go in touch, to get in touch with the radio broadcast this AM. We are, of course, talking about the retirement of Nick Saban, 17 seasons as Alabama's head coach, 7 national championships to his name, 1 at LSU, a game that I was at, 6 against the at Alabama for the Crimson Tide. We're going to jump back into that more on the connections, I guess, that people are trying to make that would send Dabo Swinney to Alabama. Wesley on the stream chat said, I'm not naive enough to say it's impossible, but it's mainly everyone that's not a Clemson grad that really thinks he's going. As a Clemson grad, I don't worry about it that much. As not a Clemson grad, I'm not super concerned about it either, Wesley. Like I said, I think Dabo has been not so subtle about where his frustrations with this program lie right now. And it is primarily the vocal negative fans. Every school's got them. The only thing that I think Dabo gets frustrated by is entitlement from the fans. We are entitled to be in the mix every year. And anything less than that is a failure. There's actually one more reason that I think that Dabo Swinney will not fit in Tuscaloosa. There's actually one more reason I think Dabo should would not, but should not take that job. And I'm going to tell you what that is in the next segment. But this segment is a benchmark. This segment is a segment where we've got to do a thing that we do every day. Ladies and gentlemen, you're less than an hour away from clocking into the old 8 to 5er. You're less than an hour away from getting to work, which means that you're just a little over an hour away from taking that first smoke break, from gathering around the water cooler, from talking sports with your coworkers. And in order to do that, you will need this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar?
I like the new intro.
Encyclopedia of the
It's got a good vibe to it.
Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
You hear that?
Game over.
before they take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
This is completely BS. This is shame.
It is the water cooler cheat sheet, the 3 items you need to know before you go start talking sports with your coworkers around the office. These are the stories that you will need to be up to date about. And we start with item number 1. We won't take a ton of time on this because, well, we already have, and we will be talking more about it as the show progresses. But it obviously is going to be the topic of conversation that dominates every conversation about sports today. It is the retirement of Nick Saban. 17 seasons in charge of the Alabama Crimson Tide, has been in coaching since, earlier I made a mistake, Lonzo. I said that he has been in coaching since 1977. That is not true. He joined on as a grad assistant and defensive backs coach at Kent State in 1970. 1970. One more time. 1970. He has been in the game since, again, 1970. Now, I'm real bad at math, Lonzo, but let's break this down. 1970 until the year 2000 is 30 years of coaching. 2000 to 2020 is 20 more years. That's 50 years of coaching. And then 2020 until 2024 is 4 more years. That is 54 years that Nick Saban has been coaching, dating back to his first gig as a GA assistant coach at Kent State. That's a very long time. Nick Saban walks away with an overall record of 15-17 in the NFL, but we don't talk about that. His college record, 292 wins, 71 losses, and 1 tie when it comes down to it. That is, and again, I'm very bad at math. I'm also mad at math because why are you so hard, math? But I'm bad at it. That is, okay, this has got to be good.
All right. Again, I don't think this is a speculation, but according to Adam Schefter, Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots are expected to part ways today after 24 seasons together.
All right, so we're losing Nick Saban, Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick, all in a 12-hour span. My goodness. There is an era of football coming to a close right now. All right, so hoodies out. We'll come back to that here in just a minute. That is breaking news brought to you by our friends at BetQL. Be a better, be smarter, beat the books. Listen to BetQL and the BetQL Network. And, of course, Bet for the Cycle every Saturday from noon to 4 with myself and Cody Decker, the nation's #1 nationally syndicated sports talk radio gambling show, if you ask my mom. We'll come back to that later on. So Saban walks away, and now obviously the question is who steps in at Alabama? I propose, and this is not a joke, Pete Carroll. Legitimately, when Pete Carroll announced,
why not Belichick?
Because I don't think Belly is going to want to do all of the recruiting angle of college football.
He's got sons for that.
You're the head coach. You are the recruiter, right? Those are ambassadors. You're the man now, dog. I don't think Hoodie's going to want to do that. You know who would? Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll loves talking to dudes. Pete Carroll loves to chat. He loves to yap. I'm not kidding when I say if I'm Alabama, I'm on the horn with Pete Carroll immediately. Like literally yesterday, I'm on the horn with PC. But we'll talk more about that in a little while because Dabo Swinney connected to the job. I don't think that's a good idea at all, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth later on. 7 national championships, 11 conference championships within the SEC, 1 within the MAC, 12 SEC Western Division champions. 2-time Paul Bear Bryant Award winner, 2-time Walter Camp Award winner, a George Munger Award winner, a Bobby Dodd Award winner, a 2-time AP College Football Coach of the Year Award winner, a 2-time Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year Award winner, a Home Depot Coach of the Year Award winner, a Sporting News Coach of the Year Award winner, a Liberty Mutual Coach of the Year Award winner, a Bobby Bowden Coach of the Year Award winner, and a five-time SEC Coach of the Year. Yes, Nick Saban has what I think would qualify as being a legacy. We'll talk more about that coming up here a little bit later in the show, but we got to get to item number 2. There was a meeting in Phoenix, Arizona, amongst the NCAA's Division I Council earlier this week, and they put some proposals on the table. They had a conversation about NIL protocols, guidelines, rules, and regulations being changed, and we are seeing already the ramifications of that meeting. According to ESPN's Dan Murphy, the NCAA Division I Council voted yesterday to adopt new rules designed to help athletes avoid unscrupulous agents and unfavorable terms in name, image, and likeness contracts. Starting in August, the NCAA will provide athletes with standardized contract recommendations for NIL deals and aggregated data to help schools and athletes have a more realistic picture of the going rates for endorsement deals. The association also plans to create a voluntary registry of credible and trusted agents that will be based largely on feedback from the athletes who have worked with them in the past. MAC Commissioner and Division I Council Vice Chair John Steinbrecher said, quote, "We don't want to do anything to get into the way of student athletes trying to activate their NIL rights, but we do want to assist them in essentially protecting themselves," end quote. Long story short, the NCAA with this vote is going to do 2 things. Numero uno is they are going to have very, very expensive attorneys, I have no doubt, start to draw up contracts. And these contracts will be for different possible NIL arrangements. They'll have one for guys who want to do a podcast, and one for guys who want to do appearances at car dealerships, and one for guys who want to promote a particular type or genre of product. And if you are a student athlete within the NCAA's umbrella of jurisdiction, and you decide that you would like to do a podcast that is paid for and sponsored by company X or Y or Z, well, now your life just got a whole lot easier. Because if that organization wants to come on board, you now have a legal document that you just got to go to the school and go, hey, Bob's Used Cars wants me to do a once-a-week podcast talking about the season. And they will hand you a contract that's already written up with a blank for their name, a blank for your name, and a blank for the amount of money they're going to pay you. But Rob, what would you fill in that blank? How, pray tell, would you ever know what that amount is? Well, they're covering that as well. They are now going to allow these NIL deals to be cataloged, so that if Bob's Used Cars calls the starting wide receiver and says, we would like you to do a pod talking about the season every week, that guy can go to the school and he will be able to climb through the records of all the starting wide receivers doing pods for used car dealerships around the country and see that the wide receiver over here is getting paid $500 an episode. The wide receiver over here, who is a 5-star NFL first-round draft pick, is getting paid $2,000 an episode. And he can go, all right, I value my pod at X amount per episode. And now I have the contract and a fair market price for my work. I think that's a good idea. I think it's a great idea. I think anytime that you are taking steps in order to protect your athletes, I think that's a good thing. I think it's good for the athletes. I think it's good for the business. I think it's good for the NCAA. We're going to keep an eye on that. There is one more meeting taking place, and it is taking place today. That is a meeting to discuss, not vote on, not enact, but to discuss the Project One, whatever they called it, Charlie Baker's plan to allow schools to join a select subdivision that would be able to pay athletes directly out of the school, but require them to establish trust for the athletes in the school. They will be having that conversation later today. We will keep an eye on that and the reports we get out of it. Let us get to item number 3. The Clemson Tigers are now 11-4 on the basketball court. They had an opportunity to stop a 2-game slide. They lost 95-82 on the road at Miami. They then lost 65-55 in a game that wasn't that close against North Carolina. Come on and raise up last night on the road against the Virginia Tech Hokies. That is a winnable game. That's a game, in fact, frankly, they probably needed to win. They did not. 87-72, the Tigers fall on the road by the full 15 to Virginia Tech. They found themselves down 9 at the half, and the Hokies able to separate themselves even more down the stretch. It was the Tiger defense that fell apart in this one. They allowed Virginia Tech to shoot 54% from 3. They shot 54% both from the floor and from deep, going 13 of 24 from behind the arc. Clemson shot 44% from the floor and 35% from three-point, going 9 of 26. They also lifted 8 free throws and knocked down 7 of them. Clemson got out-rebounded as well, 35-28. Virginia Tech dropped more dimes, 17-13. Virginia Tech had more steals, 7-4. Virginia Tech had more blocks, 5-3. Virginia Tech had fewer personal fouls, 14-10. Everything went the way of the Hokies. Listen, I saw a lot of Tiger fans starting to panic last night. Here it is, the annual, inevitable Brad Brownell collapse. Take a deep breath, my dudes. You have multiple things going on. Number one, you've got a handful of guys that are out and banged up right now, okay? You're going to start getting guys back. There is no depth on this team right now. You went into this with 9 players. There was no point in this game where you didn't have to have at least one starter out there because you're just out of bodies. To compare that, Virginia Tech came in with 5. You had guys trotting out there for as many as 20 minutes. And by the way, the backups, the reserves you have are your backup reserves. You don't even have your top of the table reserves right now. You're going to see guys getting healthy. You're going to have depth, which means teams aren't going to be able to pull away from you late. The second thing is PJ Hall is on the Wooten Award watch list right now. He is one of the guys, there are 25 on this list, considered under review to potentially be named the best player in college basketball. He is not playing his best basketball right now. PJ Hall, 4 of 13 from the floor, 3 of 8 from the arc for 11 points, no assist, no steals, a single block, and just 4 rebounds on the night. That dude is not going to stay down long. He's going to bounce back. I am optimistic. Let me tell you where I am right now. I look at Clemson and I see a team that was trying last night. They were digging last night. They were working last night. Problem is, they just did not have the depth or the stamina to get after Virginia Tech late. Rob, why are you being so complimentary to them when you dogged Lamont and the Gamecocks yesterday? It's attitude. It's attitude. I didn't see Clemson roll over, and I didn't see Clemson walk over and start talking smack at players who were not even in the game. from Alabama, in this case, Virginia Tech. I saw a team in Clemson that unfortunately was just outgunned due to guys being down. I saw a team in South Carolina that melted under pressure on the road at Alabama. These two teams are in very different places, despite the records being so eerily similar right now. That is item number 3. There it is, your water cooler cheat sheet. The 3 sports stories you need to know before you go start talking sports at the office today. Let's take a break. When we come back, I'm not going to spend all day on this. We got other stuff we need to talk about. But there is one primary reason that not only do I think that Alabama ends up not going with Dabo Swinney, there's actually one reason that I think Alabama's AD and hiring officers wouldn't want to bring in Dabo Swinney. And I'll tell you what that is when we come back. I'm Rob Brown. Lonzo on the ones and twos. The Rob Brown Show rolls on next. It is the Fan Upstate.
QC.
All right, guys, quick break, and we're coming right back. Stay right there, y'all. All right, we're back, dudes and dudettes. Thanks for hanging in there. Good to have you guys.
By the way, Keegan, we broke that around 7, so we'd already broke that news.
Yeah, Keegan, do better.
Thank you, though. We always appreciate the help.
None? Please do it. Please do that. That's genuinely funny. Chumba.
Smith and James in the next break.
10-4. So I mentioned earlier the reason that in my ever so humble yet frequently correct opinion that Dabo Swinney should not go to Alabama. It's real simple. Alabama fans, if you do not like entitled fans, would be the absolute worst to be around. There is no more entitled fan base, and perhaps justifiably so, when Nick Saban was at the helm, than the Alabama Crimson Tide fan base. But there is another angle to this conversation. I asked, why would Dabo want to go to Alabama? But the flip side of that conversation is, why would Alabama want Dabo Swinney to come to them? Now, there is a reason that Dabo Swinney is frustrated with a percentage of the Clemson fan base. He's made that abundantly clear. And that reason is, of course, as we mentioned, entitlement. And one of the things that you hear about Dabo Swinney very frequently as a critique of the Clemson Tiger head football coach is that Dabo Swinney has, at the very least, a reluctance to embrace the new world of college football, primarily the transfer portal, primarily NIL. Now, that is the narrative. How true that narrative is up for debate and up for discussion. I would point out that Dabo Swinney absolutely has pulled guys out of the transfer portal. I would also point out that it does not happen very frequently. And Dabo has made it very clear. I will take a guy out of the portal if I believe he's committed to being here and if he fits a need. I'm not just going to grab any guy out there. And in the world of college football today, you look around and you see that there's a lot of very good players in the portal, some of whom make an enormous difference. We have pointed out multiple times Florida State, a team who had a bunch of stars that carried them to a 13-0 ACC title, most, if not all of whom, at the star level, came out of the transfer portal. Here's the thing. Alabama very much likes to use the transfer portal, and Alabama very much likes to set their kids up to have success in the world of name, image, and likeness profit. And again, you may not have to love it, but the schools who are getting it done right now are the schools that are going, NIL sucks a little bit because a lot of what would used to have been booster money that came to us is now going into NIL collectives and is getting given to the players. And while I don't think Dabo has ever stepped in and said, my guys aren't getting NIL, we don't do that here, I also have not seen him embrace and push the players' ability to make money like I have other top-level coaches. So if the narrative out there is that Dabo is anti-portal and Dabo is anti-NIL because he just refuses to leave the old age of college football and embrace and join the new age of college football, I am going to tell you, Bama will not want him. It will be a requirement because, as I have pointed out to you many times, correctly so, you have to recruit 3 times in today's college football. You used to just have to recruit guys out of high school to come to your school. Now, you have to recruit guys out of high school to come to your school. You have to recruit guys out of the portal to come to your school. And you have to recruit guys at your school to stay at your school. A lot of coaches don't like that. You used to be able to just make empty promises to a kid to get him there. And then if he gets there and you can fulfill those promises, amazing. But if he gets there and you can't fulfill the promises you made during the recruiting period, sucks to be that kid. That's not the way the world works anymore. Now, if you can't fulfill those promises, that kid's going to leave and he's going to go somewhere else and he's going to make somebody else's team better because of it. The transfer portal is a net zero game. For every 5-star that leaves, somebody else has a 5-star that shows up. You've got to be on the plus end of the zero-sum game. You have to understand that these kids are moving. As Lonzo said multiple times, that genie's not going back in the bottle. So in a world where there's a zero-sum game regarding talent in college football taking place, if you want to be successful, you better make damn sure you're on the plus end of that ledger. There are a lot of Clemson fans that are arguing they have not been. You have been on the negative side of the ledger. And that's not going to fly at the University of Alabama. It's just not. Bama knows that. Now, I do not subscribe to a very popular theory that is going around right now amongst the college football discussion. And that popular conspiracy theory is that Bama already has their guy. They already know who the guy is. They got to go through the dog and pony show of a coaching search, but they already know who the guy is. I don't necessarily think that that is accurate. I think that is speculation from people who are looking at what has been for 17 years the model of success in that sport. And they are casting upon it their projection of what a perfect college football program would do. The reality is, as much as I do think Bama can almost have anybody that they want, they are going to have to pay for it still, right? Because if I'm, let's say, hypothetically, Dan Lanning at Oregon, a guy who's done a spectacular job for the Pac-12-based, Nike-centric University of Oregon Ducks. If I'm Dan Lanning and I'm sitting on a team that just went 11-1 in the regular season, played for a Pac-12 championship, and the only team in America that beat me was a team that went on to play for a national championship game, I can be talked out of Oregon to go to the most prestigious coaching job in college football, but it's going to cost you. And it's also going to cost you knowing that the expectations at Alabama are just flat out higher than they are anywhere else. So Alabama can probably have just about anybody else that they want. Again, they're going to have to pay for it, but they've got the resources. They've got the money. Money is not an object to Alabama. So, knowing that they can have just about anybody that they want, my question is, would they want Dabo? Because if the narrative surrounding Dabo Swinney is true, if the narrative that Dabo Swinney is refusing to adapt to adjust to embrace all of what the new era of college football involves, that's not going to fly in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It's just not. It's not flying. The only reason it is flying at Clemson is because of the legacy of Dabo Swinney, because of what Dabo Swinney has accomplished at Clemson so far. If Dabo Swinney didn't have his history at Clemson, then Dabo Swinney would not be still at Clemson right now. Dabo Swinney has 2 national championships, and he has 8 conference championships and 10 divisional championships within the conference. If he didn't have that list of accolades, there'd be a lot more noise around the guy. Because the way he is doing it within the narrative is not going to work in the new age of college football. This concept of, I'm going to get kids who want to be here, that's just, I want to do it the old way in different words and more dressed up language. And if you want to keep doing it the old way, that's fine. The new way is still happening. And if you don't embrace it, you're going to get left behind. I promise you, Alabama right now understands the crossroads that they are at in their history. They right now are the kings of the mountain. Even though they are not the national champions, when it comes to what programs are, they are the model right now. And they understand that getting a guy in who is going to step into Nick Saban's shoes, carry that momentum forward, and keep them there, the new guy is going to have to not just embrace the new age of college football, they have to excel at it. As I have mentioned, I think there are 3 important things that made Saban Saban. Number 1, he ran a tight ship. Everything ran through him. He was a massive micromanager. He controlled everything about that program. Not a decision. The color of the socks didn't change unless Nick signed off on it. Number 2, he coached his kids to be winners. Not to win, but to be winners, because winners win. It is one thing to teach a guy how to win. It is another thing to teach him how to be a winner. If you teach a kid how to win, they will win at the thing that you've taught them to win at. If you teach your kid to be a winner, they will win at everything that they are involved in. Because winner is a mentality. It's not a skill set. It's a mentality. And that mentality helps you be better at acquiring the skill sets to win wherever you are. Nick Saban, I think, did that better than anybody else. But the third thing, and the most important thing that kept Nick Saban on the top of the hill, the most important thing about Nick Saban was that every time college football changed during his 17 years at Alabama, Nick would say, hey, are we sure? Are we sure this is what we want this game to be? Are we sure this is what we want the game to be? And when college football looked at Nick and said, yes, Grandpa, this is the game now, get over it. You know what Nick Saban did? He adapted, he evolved, and he became the best in the world at doing that thing. He became the best in the world at the thing that he then complained about, because he knew, all right, if I'm going to win, this is what I got to do, because that is the mentality of a winner. It is, I may not like the thing that I have to do. I may not like the world that created the thing that I have to do, but I do understand if I want to be in charge of that world, I got to do that thing. saying, if I got to do that thing, I might as well kick everybody else's ass while I do the thing. And that's what Nick did. And he did it time and time again. When college football started going 5 wide open offenses, Nick Saban became the best at it. When college football embraced NIL, Nick Saban was on the front line getting his dues. I'll give you one example that I thought was perfect. And by the way, I got to give credit because Dabo was involved in this too. But a couple of years ago, when the Black Lives Matter movement was taking place, regardless of how you felt about it, the players embraced it. It was important to the players. And so where did you see Nick Saban when the BLM marches were taking place? At the front of that line. I don't know if Nick Saban genuinely embraced the concept of the BLM marches the way that his players did, but it didn't matter. It was important to the players. It was important that they had the ability to interact with that movement. And so where was Nick Saban? At the front of every march involving Alabama football players. Where was Dabo Swinney? Helping the guys that were in those positions to set up those speeches and those marches on campus, to say what they wanted to say. That's important. Nick did it as well, if not better than anybody else. And that's why he was where he is. So, while I have always given credit to Dabo Swinney for allowing his players to be his players, for allowing his players to talk and to interact and to engage and to be involved, if he is unwilling to embrace the aspects of college football that he does not like, the portal, NIL, etc., forget if Dabo wants to go to Alabama. Alabama won't want Dabo. And if that's the reason he stays at Clemson, not because he wants to be there, but because Alabama does not want him there, because they don't believe that his mindset, his philosophy can keep them on top of the mountain, question mark time. Question mark time. Texter says, I don't think Dabo really wants the Alabama job, but on the other hand, if he wants to leave the ACC and an easy road to a top 12 playoff, he might as well go. Texter said the fan Dab's philosophy would not work at Alabama. Texter said Dabo would seem like a natural fit at Bama, but I think Mike Vrabel would probably be a better fit since he played college football at a high-profile school and coached in the NFL. Vrabel, I think, would be an interesting pick. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, Vrabel is not going to have a spot in the unemployment line very long. Mike Vrabel's going to be in a head coaching job sooner rather than later. Texter said Dabo won't go to Alabama, but he will stay cagey and use this to get another raise out of Clemson. That's what coaches do these days. What, they try to get more money for their job? Isn't that what we're all doing? I feel like that's what we're all doing, isn't it? Like, isn't that kind of why we work, to get more money? All right, we got to take a break. When we come back here in just a minute. Bill Belichick is out. Speaking of this, was this a retirement show? Bill Belichick out for the New England Patriots. What does that mean for the NFL head coaching carousel, including your Carolina Panthers? We'll discuss it when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Smith.
All right, guys, quick live read, and we're coming right back. All right, y'all, we are back. Thanks so much for hanging out, man. Great to have everybody. Last time I asked for a raise on a job, they gave me a taller ladder. That's a dad joke, Steven, and a very good one.
And you should stay off of those.
Very. Forgot about that. How you feeling, by the way, buddy? Are you back to normalish?
You said earlier you went back to work today or something.
Good, and I'm sorry. You sound awful, pal.
Thank you. I feel awful. I'm really, really trying to make it till 10. Because even though as sick as I am, I can at least run the board.
Yeah.
So. Last sports flash, I had to sneeze the entire time. That's why.
Say again?
I had to sneeze the entire time. Last sports flash. That's why I was struggling so hard.
Dude, I'll do them. I mean, I'll do the last, one?
Well, there's two. I got it. Got one here and one next hour. Promise I'll do better this time.
All right, wrapping up the second hour of the show as Lonzo broke back in the beginning of this hour. Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots have mutually agreed to part ways. The hoodie is done in New England after a couple of back-to-back disappointing seasons. After multiple misses at the quarterback position, the hoodie is out with the Patriots, which is interesting because he did not get fired on Black Monday, and we all sat there and thought, all right, maybe they're going to give him one more go at this. And at his press conference on Monday, the hoodie routinely and regularly referred to the New England Patriots as, quote, our team, end quote. He also said that at least twice, he would be willing to give up personnel and roster management duties in order to stay with the team. It felt like Hoodie wanted to stay in Foxborough. It sounds to me like this maybe wasn't quite as mutual as the press release is making it sound. That being said, what does this do to the carousel? What does this do to the head coaching carousel that is taking place in the NFL right now? We know the Titans need a coach. The Patriots now need a coach. The Panthers obviously need a coach. The Falcons need a coach. Pete Carroll, it was announced last night, is out in Seattle. Seattle needs a coach. Pete Carroll would not answer questions about taking a future job. He simply said that he was taking off the headset and moving into an office position, but asked if he would give that up to get back under a headset for another team. He was non-committal. So where is the carousel in its constant spinning right now? The answer is that it is very convoluted at this point. There are a couple of guys that I do not suspect will be out of a job for very long. Mike Vrabel is one of those cats. There's a couple of names that I would very much love to see show up in Carolina. Mike Vrabel is one of those names. Bill Belichick is not one of those names. I do not want to see the hoodie in Charlotte. The hoodie has a legacy, without a doubt. He's the all-time winningest coach. He is also the all-time losingest coach in the NFL. Without Brady, the hoodie's not been the same guy. Now, I said yesterday on the show, for those of you that are astute listeners, I said something on the show that I am going to repeat and reiterate here. I do think that hoodie was instrumental in the success of Tom Brady. But I do not think it was the hoodie's X's and O's. I do not think it was the hoodie's game plan that made that franchise as successful as it was when the GOAT was there. I think what made them successful was that the hoodie had a lot in similarity with Nick Saban. It was hoodie's franchise. It was Belichick's franchise. You did not question it. You did not rock the boat. You did not paddle upstream. And once Bill Belichick recognized and realized what he had in Tom Brady, the entire point was to dial in on building around that guy. Now, that actually sounds like a wonderful plan when you have a guy like Brady. I do not know that it translates to a guy like Bryce Young. For the record, not just Bryce Young. I would say the same thing about Anthony Richardson or Will Levis or CJ Stroud or Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels or Michael Penix Jr. or Drake May. That is only going to work when you have the elite at the top of the food chain. Hoodie had that in Tom Brady. You've got to have a Tom Brady, a Peyton Manning, a Drew Brees for that to work. Where you go, everything in this building is centered around making sure this guy has everything he needs and wants to be successful. I don't think you're ready for that in Charlotte. So I don't think BY helps. Or excuse me, I don't think hoodie helps. I don't think BY is helped, and I don't think hoodie helps there. Now, there is only one reason that I would be on board with hoodie coming to Charlotte, and that is he's probably one of like 2 coaching candidates that would be willing to butt heads, and I mean that both metaphorically and literally, with David Tepper. There are other guys that I think in negotiations could get there. Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson is the number 1 name in the coaching carousel of guys that have not been head coaches yet, that I think could go to Tep and go, I'm only working here if you sign a document that says you will stay the hell out of my way. Hoodie and Vrabel would make him or get fired 6 weeks into the franchise again, which, by the way, makes Tep look real bad. So I don't really like the fit there. I am intrigued that Shefty is saying the Falcons are a legitimate landing spot for Bill Belichick. That makes a little more sense there. But we'll see. What about hoodie with LA with Justin Herbert? I'm going to tell you, LA is right now going to get one of the top candidates. They are the odds-on favorite to land Jim Harbaugh if he goes to the league. I'm unsurprised, but they'll be in the mix for guys like Ben Johnson. Speaking of elite, elite, here's Lonzo.
Yeah, don't put that pressure on me. You know what I'm dealing with. The Clemson Tigers failed to end their 2-game losing streak, dropping their 3rd in a row to Virginia Tech last night. 4 Tigers tallied 10 total points or more, but it was Clemson's defense that took a hit, allowing the Hokies to shoot 55% from the floor and 54% from the arc. Tech also out-rebounded the Tigers 35-28. Clemson plays Boston College on Saturday. 2 more top 5 teams fell to unranked squads last night. Number 3, Kansas took the L on the road at UCF, 65-60, while the SEC's best, number 5, Tennessee, dropped one to Mississippi State, 77-72. That was the 2nd day in a row that 2 top 5 teams lost to unranked teams in the same day. If you're looking for NFL playoffs, we got you covered this weekend on the Fan Upstate, starting Saturday night and going all through Sunday. I want to go home. I could just go home. But I'm halfway there, man. Oh, that is old.
You can make the decision right now to get lasting relief from that awful joint pain for 2024. Hey, it's Charlie James. Don't go another year compromising because of that pain in your knee or shoulder. Call QC Kinetics now. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative, non-surgical pain relief. Your body has what it needs to restore and repair that damaged joint pain, and QC Kinetics can make it happen. No drugs, no surgery, no downtime. The future of pain treatment has arrived, and QC has tens of thousands of satisfied patients all over America. People with back pain, hip pain, any pain associated with arthritis or injury. This is not a Band-Aid. This is a revolutionary treatment that can get you moving again. Get your life back. And listen, it's non-surgical. If this year is the year you decide to fight back against that pain, take the first step now. Call QC Kinetics. Get a free consultation on the calendar today. Call 864-448-3772. That's 864-448-3772 in Greenville and in Asheville. 864-448-3772.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional grade supplies for every industry, even hard to find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by.
In my head,
For the ones who get it done.
I thought I was a segment ahead or behind, I guess. I thought that was the 45 break. Largest home loss under Steve Kerr. Got him.
Listen, James, in the next break.
10-4.
Night Country, Sunday 9 p.m. Eastern, streaming exclusively on Max. And listen to the True Detective Night Country podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
WORD Spartanburg.
The official sports voice of you, the Upstate fan. CBS Sports Radio. Live from the Philadelphia. Man, check this out. We're on official Rob Brown lockdown. Yeah. Unfiltered sports talk manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
And off we go, ladies and gentlemen, into hour number 3 of the Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that eventually ends at 10 a.m. As a matter of fact, we'll be done. Lonzo's going to immediately go to sleep. I'm not sure he's going to leave the studio. He may just climb under the desk. But we're getting through it, as we always do. I am Rob Brown. He is the great one, Lonzo. We are glad to have you all along for the ride. You want to be a part of the show? Now's a wonderful time to do it. The text line is open. It's 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N. You can give us a buzz on the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone at 844-326-3663. 844-FAN-FONE if you'd like to get at us in that direction and come on the air. You are, of course, always welcomed. Nay, I say encouraged to do so. You can tweet, post, X me at the Rob Brown Show. You can tweet, post, X Lonzo at Lonzo on Word. You can tweet, post, X everybody at the station at the Fan Upstate. And of course, if you got something more long-winded and you would like to come on the air with, or don't want to come on the air with it, you can email me, rob.brown at thefanupstate.com. I was talking to our intrepid young news reporter, director, manager, newsman extraordinaire, Lee from our sister station during my restroom break there while we were off the air. And he was telling me that his daughter is a Seattle Seahawks fan, and she was very emotional yesterday at the departure of Pete Carroll because of the emotion of Pete Carroll. If you did not see Pete Carroll's presser last night after it was broken that he would not be continuing on as the head coach of the Seattle Sea Chickens, if you did not hear the press conference of Pete Carroll when they, and I'm air quoting this so much I pull a finger, mutually separate. They didn't. Seattle said, hey, thanks for everything, dude. We're going in a different direction. I got exactly and precisely zero belief that Pete Carroll wanted to step away. Okay? And I think Pete Carroll's going to be back under a headset sooner rather than later. It's a guess on my part. I don't have anything to confirm that. It's just my thought. Lee said something that I found very interesting. He said Pete Carroll is not going to be listed amongst the all-time great NFL head coaches. He is going to be listed amongst the all-time goods of NFL coaches. And I thought, that's actually probably pretty fair, right? Because on one hand, Pete Carroll won a Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks. On the other hand, Pete Carroll should have won 2 Super Bowls with the Seattle Seahawks. Pete Carroll's legacy, unfairly but justifiably, is always going to be not giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch, a man who was known as beast mode. Beast mode is a thing that you hear athletes and video game nerds say all the time. But there's only one cat who was so beast mode that became his nickname, and it was Marshawn Lynch. And Pete Carroll decided to throw the ball instead of giving it to beast mode to go beast mode. Marshawn Lynch has a run called the Beast Quake. I'll never forget it. Why? Because Marshawn Lynch ran through all 11 New Orleans Saints defenders 3 times and jumping into the end zone, grabbed his junk and waggled it in our face on the way to the ground to let us know about it. And there wasn't a damn thing you could say at that point. And you didn't give him the ball. You threw it. You gave Tom Brady another ring. Hoodie should be celebrating 5 rings today, not 6. Brady should have ended with 6 rings, not 7. But Pete Carroll. And that's going to be the guy's legacy, which is why I think he is going to be listed amongst the NFL's all-time goodest coaches, not best coaches. But I said this earlier in the show. The more I've thought about it, the more I actually believe it to be true. Do you know what team should be on the horn with Pete Carroll right now? Do you know what team should be making the call right now to try to get that man inked, to try to get that man in their polo and under their visor? The University of Alabama. Because while Pete Carroll may not be listed amongst the NFL's all-time greats, do you know where he is listed? He is listed amongst the college football coaches who were in charge of a dynasty. Because Pete Carroll's USC Trojans were everything that made USC into a blue blood. Now, they have been for years. They're USC. They're LA school. They were always going to be in the mix. But the Leinart Bush White days were about as good of a football team as you're going to see at the college level. To this day, despite the number of great college football national championships we have seen, to me, the Texas USC national championship game may have been the greatest football game I've ever watched. Vince Young and the Horns, Matt Leinart and the Trojans may have been the single greatest individual college football game I have ever watched. It was heightened by the fact that there was a natty on the line. But just as a game goes, that may have been the greatest game I've ever seen. And Pete Carroll was a part of the reason why USC was in that position. My question mark is, has Pete lost a step in 20 years? And I would argue, I don't think he has. There's a lot of weird to Pete Carroll. A lot of weird to Pete Carroll, both on and off the football field. Pete Carroll is a 9/11 truther. All right? There's a lot of weird to Pete Carroll off the football field. There's a lot of weird to Pete Carroll on the football field. But there is one thing that is inarguable. His players seem to love him. The split with Russell Wilson was, and I thought about this when it happened. The split with Russell Wilson, as far as I could remember, and you guys challenge me if I'm incorrect, was the only situation where a relationship between Pete Carroll and a player seemed to go sour. There are a lot of dudes who played for Pete Carroll in Seattle who moved on to other places and had nothing but thumbs up for Pete Carroll. So regardless of who he is as a dude away from football, I don't think that there is a question anywhere at all that players seem to love the guy. I would be willing to give it a crack at Alabama. Like immediately. I would bring him to Tuscaloosa. I would do it under the guise of players loved you. Your players at SC loved you. Your players in SEA loved you. Now let's see if they love you under the Houndstooth banner. I think that would be a wonderful fit. Again, this is not me saying I have any indication that this will happen or that this has even been discussed in Tuscaloosa. This is just Rob Brown, the fantasy booker. I think that would be a spectacular fit. Pete Carroll at the University of Alabama. I think it would work wonders. And I would make that call today. All right, we got some other stuff that I want to talk about on the radio broadcast today. Coming up here in just a few minutes, Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast is going to join us to talk a little Carolina Panther football. I look forward to that as I do every single day. But there's some other stories that I want to get to, and we will ask Rashad about this one in just a minute. We are starting to see the list of potential head coaches come out for the Carolina Panthers and potential general managers coming out. We are also starting to see news about interviews that are and have taken place. Jacksonville is in need of a defensive coordinator. Jacksonville made the call to Carolina. They said, hey, yo, you're getting a new HC. That means the majority of the guys that are currently wearing visors around your office are not going to be there anymore. We would like the opportunity to talk to Ejiro Evero, the defensive coordinator for your football team, to potentially bring him down to be our new DC moving forward. And Carolina said, no, you can't do that. Now, I am not super well versed in all the rules, but my understanding is that you cannot block an interview regarding a promotion. You can block an interview of a lateral move. You can say, no, I can't. I'm not going to allow you to interview him to move to the same job there, but not if Jacksonville called about the head coach, which obviously they're not going to do. But the fact that they are keeping Ejiro Evero on the no interview list unless you are promoting him to HC, I find very interesting, because the assumption is that whoever you bring in to be your new head coach is going to bring in his guys. That's the way it works with most teams. That is not the way it works in Charlotte, North Carolina for the Carolina Panthers. For the Carolina Panthers, when you are hired as their head coach, David Tepper has a large say in who it is that serves as your coordinators and your assistant coach. That is why Thomas Brown and Ejiro Evero were both guys that had a ton of interest from other NFL teams, both as coordinators and head coaches. It did not necessarily make sense that they showed up alongside Frank Reich, certainly not Thomas Brown. But now you're in a spot where Dave Tepper is blocking Ejiro Evero from talking to other teams about a defensive coordinator position, which, and maybe I'm extrapolating a step or nine too far here, but in a spot where you've already drawn the ire of Panther fans because you're too involved, for you to say, without saying, by blocking the interview, I'm not going to let this guy go anywhere else to be the DC. It kind of sounds like you're saying, I want to keep this guy here as the DC, which kind of sounds like you're saying, I don't really care who the next HC is going to be. This is my DC. This is my defense coordinator. This is my guy. He is sticking around. And if that is the case, and that is what you are telling head coaching candidates, do not be shocked if all of the head coaching candidates that are high-level head coaching candidates start telling you no. Start saying, no, I'm good. I'm good. You're not going to let me bring my guy in. You are already telling me who my guys are going to be. Then I don't want to be there because I am not going to take, especially my first head coaching job. I'm not going to take my first head coaching job with an owner telling me, yeah, but this is your coordinator. You don't get to bring in your own guy. We'll ask Rashad Beard about that here in just a moment and see if he thinks
It's a complete crap.
We will ask him when we come back. I'm Rob Brown, Lonzo on the ones and twos. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate.
Smith.
All right, guys, the live read. Then I'm getting Rashad in here, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Rashad, what's up, fella?
What's going on, man?
How you doing, buddy?
I'm good.
Glad to hear it, man. Season's over. Congratulations, pal. You made it.
Yeah, finally over.
Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Just go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel.com. 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 If you're hired, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners.
Welcome in the PNP Army showing up on a Thursday morning. You love to see it.
Coming through.
Love to see it.
Wow, there's Vin Diesel on the yacht. I don't feel so bad about myself right now. That's not good.
Say on a yacht?
Yeah, he
How's that bad?
he has let himself go.
Oh, well, if Vin Diesel's out of shape, I am just bleep out of luck. We can't all be Rashad, man.
That's funny. Breaking: Vince Lombardi out as coach of the Green Bay Packers. So you're going to Germany. I figure you probably spend time there in your other job.
Oh,
to where that you can't really talk about. So I mean, so it's familiar territory for you.
No, I haven't been to Germany.
Allegedly.
As an adult, I've never been.
it is Thursday, ladies and gentlemen, and on Thursdays we talk Carolina Panther football, and we do so with one half of America's favorite National Football League themed podcast. He is the host of the Panther Nation podcast. He joins us every Thursday, even when we don't want to talk about the Carolina Panthers, to talk about the Carolina Panthers. Rashad Beard on the radio broadcast. What's up, big fella?
What's going on, guys? We made it through. We made it through.
You did like Sunday evening, did you take off the Panther gear and like put it in the back of the dresser drawer for a few minutes and just take a deep breath?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, basically, yes. It was glad to. I was happy to for the season to be over and for us to move on. It was I think this season goes down as the worst season in Carolina Panthers history, considering all the circumstances around it and the trade up and everything that happened. And so I'm glad it's over and we get to move on and start from scratch. So I'm happy about the possibilities moving forward, though. I think we're going heading in the right direction so far.
All right. So obviously we know Fitterer's out. We haven't talked since that news broke. The list of, or at least the first list of GM candidates has come out. On one hand, Rashad, I want to be optimistic. I want to say, all right, Tepper got rid of his lapdog. He got rid of his yes man. Maybe this is a sign that he's finally going to figure out that, dude, you having your fingers on everything is the reason everything's gone bad. I just wish that I could say that that was the truth as opposed to my gut feeling. What were your thoughts when you learned that Fitz got the bricks?
That's fun. That's funny. But yeah, no, I was happy about that. I think that's one of the I believe, and I said this on my show, that I think that was one of the tougher things that David Tepper had to do. Like I feel like Scott Fitterer was his guy, and I feel like Scott was okay with doing the bidding of David Tepper without any questions asked, right? Without any pushback. And so I think that David Tepper had his guy, and he's been around for a while, and I think he trusted Scott Fitterer. I think he really trusted him. And so I think it was a good move, and a tough move for David Tepper to make. With that said, I do feel good about what's going on right now, because if you look, one thing that's never happened under the David Tepper era is that we've never started from scratch. We've never had and brought in a GM and a head coach at the exact same time. It's always been one after the other, or we keep one or fire one. We keep one or fire the other. And so now at this point, we're starting from scratch, and we're also bringing in the Sportsology, which is the firm that helped the Rams, Eagles, and et cetera, to get their situations right. So it's a little different, little signs of optimism for me. I'm happy about that. And if you look at the list of candidates, it's a pretty expansive search. So I'm happy about it.
One of the biggest takeaways I had was the announcement of utilizing a search firm, right? And I think that there's still some apprehension, because that firm can come back and say, all right, here's the list. Here's our 3 top guys. And Tep could still go, nah, screw that. I don't like any of these guys. These aren't my guys. But the fact that he got somebody outside of the organization involved, somebody that does not have a bias, somebody that does not have any reason to tint the search one way or the other, and somebody that can go, you already paid me. I got no reason to kiss your backside. Here's what we think you should do. That combined with the dismissal of Fitterer, I hate to say I feel optimistic, Rashad, because we've been saying that for 2 damn years now, but it's the first time, like you mentioned, with a true clean slate and Tepper making moves to get rid of lapdogs and bring in outside guys that have no reason to kiss his butt. It's the first time that I'm like, okay, maybe people can change. And if people can change, maybe David Tepper can change. Maybe he got the message of a step back.
Oh yeah, hey, he definitely got the message, because we had our shirts on at the game, and they hit the jumbotron several times. And word on the street is that they were told to stop putting that shirt on the jumbotron. So I think he definitely is getting the message. Or if he hasn't gotten it yet, I think word on the street is that he has taken some accountability. He recognizes, and again, only time will tell if these things are true, right? And like you said, he brought in the search firm, and he could choose not to listen to them. But we got to give him props for at least bringing them in, because that has not happened his entire tenure here. He's never brought in a search firm to help him. And so those decisions that he's made prior were solely on him and whoever the GM or the head coach were at the time. So now you bring in a third party who has a track record of success. If you look at the teams that employed this search firm, like the 49ers, the Eagles, the Rams, like they've all been relatively successful over the past couple of years. So they have a track record. And if he chooses not to listen to them, that's a whole nother problem. And we'll continue to, be down this rabbit hole of forever being bad. But it's a step in the right direction. And again, I like this list of guys that are on for the GM and head coaches. I think that even you talk about the head coach search, Tepper has said, he's wanted a offensive guy, right? But there are several defensive guys on this list. So it tells you that at least, this search firm it's expansive, right? It's not just listening to what David Tepper wants. It's a matter of finding the right person for the Carolina Panthers. And ultimately, that's what we hope to choose. I want an offensive guy myself. And I tweeted this the other day. I want an offensive guy, but at the end of the day, if the search firm comes in and says, hey, the defensive guy is best for this situation right now, then give me the defensive guy. And let's listen to these guys. They know what they're doing. And so be it. So it's a good list. And I like where we're starting off so far.
Rashad Beer from the Panther Nation podcast joining us here on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. listen, those lists are wish list, right? That's a Christmas list. You get names like Ben Johnson on there. Ben Johnson's going to have interviews with probably every team that's going to be hiring a head coach, and he is kind of the top of the list as he pretty much gets to call his shot. I've got to hope, Rashad, that the reason that this is going the way that it's going is Tepper's got to realize that on the list of head coaching opportunities right now, if he ain't at the bottom, he's real close to it. And if he wants to, at the bottom or real close to that list, if he wants to get a top-notch candidate in there, he's going to have to give them their way, right? It's either give them their way, or you're going to have to end up hiring somebody that nobody's talking about as a candidate and hope you stumble into a Mike McDaniel and not a guy you got to fire in week 6 next year for the 3rd year in a row. Sometimes the only thing that gets people to change is when there are consequences to their action and their decisions. And I got to wonder if this is a consequence to Dave Tepper's issues, ... does it frickin' matter?
Yeah, man, you hit that spot. I couldn't have said it better than that. Because if you look at the list of open jobs, we're sitting at the bottom of that list. I've seen all the rankings. Everybody's put them out, and we're sitting at the bottom of that list. So, as you stated, unless he comes in and gives some assurance that, hey, this is what was done in the past is the past. I've learned my lesson. Because we're at the bottom of the list, not because of the football team and what we've done and what we put on the field. It's because of me. Like, I have to take accountability for that. And so you're absolutely right that he needs to take onus, because you can't buy wins. You can't just – he's the second richest owner in the league. Like, you can't just buy the head coach. There's some things that come along with that, and you have to take accountability for the mistakes you've made. And so at the end of the day, I really feel like Tepper's starting to learn that lesson, and your point is spot on. We're probably going to end up either, and it doesn't really matter, but we're going to have to really, really overpay somebody at the end of the day to get them to come to Carolina, or we're going to end up hiring somebody that is maybe a few years prior to when they're ready, right? We're probably going to get a guy like Frank Smith, who's not really talked about in the mainstream yet, but he's kind of talked about, right? But he's not quite ready for prime time. So that's the kind of guy we're going to get, and hopefully it works out. But at the end of the day, it's all David Tepper. It starts and stops with the owner. And until he steps back and realizes that it's him, we're going to be in this situation over and over and over again. Absolutely right. Spot on, though, what you said.
Here's what killed me. I read Peter King put out a column either Friday or Monday. I don't remember. And I like Pete King. He and Florio both, I know, are taking a bunch of crap, but welcome to the land of media in 2024. It's about getting clicks. You got to say stuff that gets clicks. That's how it goes. But he wrote in a column, and I don't know why it stuck with me, but he said, whoever the Panthers hire, if it's a top name candidate, they're going to have to pay potentially a record contract. And he said that coach, however, should not consider it windfall profit. He should consider it hazard pay for having to work with David Tepper. And I sat there and I went, okay, I want to put myself in David Tepper's shoes. Like, obviously we're both billionaires, so I can do that pretty easy. If I'm reading one of the most respected journalists and National Football League reporters, analysts, whatever you want to call them, and he is, taking shots. That's not a little shade. That's a straight up shotgun blast of a take right there. And is completely unafraid of losing the ability to connect and cover my team. At some point, that's got to resonate. At some point, I got to realize, like, okay, I'm not just on blast with my own fans now, but now I got the guys that the NFL goes to get them to put a positive spin on the light, taking me down like a Brock Lesnar suplex. That ain't going to get it, man. And when that's the image around your team, like I've said for years, the only thing that matters to a billionaire more than their money is their ego.
Yep.
And that dude's taking some bruised egos right now. Man, I hope that's the trigger for change.
Yeah, it has to be. And again, you see things are starting to be run a little different. So, like, you're starting to see that accountability. And it's not just us. Like, we kind of, started it off with the whole March on Mint thing. But since then, bro, like, he's been taking to Suplex City, like you said, over the national media. Like, it's not just us. Everybody sees it. Everybody sees it across the league. And so, again, this is why you see the search firm. And whether I saw somebody in the chat say, "Oh, it's probably a scapegoat thing so that he can take dodge responsibility next time he has to fire a coach," maybe that's the case. But what we can say that it hasn't been done. He's taking accountability for the first two firings. He's taking responsibility for it at the end of the day, because there's nobody else to take responsibility. So he had to. And so at the end of the day, he had to do something different. And this we have to give him some credit. And nobody's been bashing David Tepper more than me, right? And I'm going to give him credit where credit is due. He deserves a little bit of credit for doing things a little different, for bringing in the coach firm, and for starting with a clean slate. But yes, he has been taking a beating over the national media, and rightfully so, right? This is not just some unwarranted thing. The proof is in the pudding, right? It's the worst season in Carolina Panthers history, so it's rightfully so. And I agree with everything Peter King said. Like, it's we're gonna have to overpay. At the end of the day, there is no salary cap for coaches, so it doesn't matter to us. It just only affects his bottom line. But at the end of the day, just let's get the right guy in here. Let's get this thing turned around. There's nothing we can do about it at this point. Let's just get the train back on the tracks.
Rashad Beard from the Panther Nation podcast here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. You can join our live stream, by the way, at facebook.com/thefanupstate, twitter.com/thefanupstate, searching and subscribing to the Rob Brown Show on YouTube or on Twitch. We'd love to have you. We do this all 4 hours every single day of the week. Let's talk football. Let's talk X's and O's and gridiron here, Rashad. And obviously, I have been reading as we start to see the postmortems for the season come in for different teams over and over and over, how the Carolina Panthers clearly made the wrong decision with CJ Stroud winning the division, going to the playoffs, versus Bryce Young winning 2 games. The thought for me is this. CJ Stroud won the division. CJ Stroud had a better year. That is inarguable. I would say the AFC South really not any better than the NFC South at the end of the season, with Jacksonville collapsing the way that they did. But this is with the war horn I've been blowing for the past week, Rashad. If you think that this year was a year that you can take away an accurate representation of what Bryce Young is, I just think you're wrong. End of sentence.
Yeah, I agree. It's too early. It's too soon. The coaching staff has been shuffled around. No direction from the top down. I mean, it's just it's fair. It's unfair to criticize Bryce Young in this season. Yes, and put it all on him specifically. Like, yes, he takes some accountability. Yes, there are some things he can get better at individually. But at the end of the day, this organization has failed Bryce Young as a whole, right? And until we get the organization fixed and get this man some weapons and fix the offensive line and get some solid play calling, it's tough to criticize Bryce Young and put everything solely on him. Yes, probably if we had CJ Stroud, we may have had a couple more wins, but at the end of the day, it still would have been bad. It wouldn't have been enough for Carolina Panthers fans. Again, Bryce Young does have some things he needs to work on individually. Yes, that is true. But to put the onus completely on him is unfair, unwarranted. And we'll have to see. Like, we need to see, let this thing play out. It's tough for us to say, all right, Panthers fans, be patient. It's been a long 6 years under David Tepper, but we have to, give Bryce Young some time to develop. It hasn't been good, no, but he deserves at least another year to kind of get the train back on the tracks with some help around him. So it's not fair at all.
All right, let's talk about the team as a whole. 11 unrestricted free agents who were technically no longer a part of the team as of Monday. There are a couple of other names that are obviously up in the air. Brian Burns being one, Jeremy Chin being one. You've got issues with Derek Brown. Right now, and I don't think it's recency bias to say that on the year that he's had, Brown is the guy that you need to ensure is priority number one. But Jeremy Chin's a guy that was on fire when he started, kind of disappeared within the scheme this year. Brian Burns, I honestly think, was holding back a little bit this year, because if he was to suffer an injury without an extension in place, that could have been catastrophic to his career. There's a lot that needs to be handled here. A, what priority order are you putting those three specifically in, but any other positions you want to see shored up? And B, Would you rather Carolina find a GM before you get to that role, or is it something you're working on right now, even if you're doing it without one?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. I think the GM and head coach specifically have to be in place before we start making these decisions, right? The direction of the team, and this is the problem with the previous regimes, right? We always had a mixed match of direction, right? The GM had a direction or the new head coach had a direction. They never were on the same page. Now is the opportunity for us to get it right, bring the head coach and GM in at the same time, and set the direction. At that point, then you figure out what we're going to do with Brian Burns. You have to start there because as much as I love Derek Brown, he's on his 5th-year option. So he's technically locked up going into next season. He's under contract. Should he get extended? Absolutely. But we have the rights to him ultimately. Brian Burns, you got to figure out what's going on. You got to figure out what you're going to do there. And I know Joe Person wrote the article about, Brian Burns holding back. I understand it, but I don't understand it at the same time. You're essentially playing for your extension at this point. You let yourself down. You kind of I get it, but I don't get it. I get the whole injury thing, but you had to show up and you didn't, right? And so you got to figure out what you're going to do with Brian Burns. With Evero, I don't know that Brian Burns is much of a priority. It really depends on who the defensive coordinator is going to be and how they're going to use Brian Burns. If they need him, right, he's a weapon, cool, we bring him back in. But I've seen Evero's defense has been really, really good, right? And so I trust Evero. If you look at his time in Denver, he's worked really well and had a really good defense without a premier pass rusher, right? And so I don't know. I don't know where we go. Personally, and people have asked me this on my channel, Jeremy Chin, not really concerned about him. There's a person you didn't talk about that needs to be priority, and that's Frankie Louvu. Frankie Louvu is a really, really good player, and I think he jumps to the top of the priority list. When you talk about linebacker play, we haven't seen a guy like this since a Thomas Davis, since a Luke. I'm not putting him in the Luke Kuechly. I'm not putting him up there, but he's starting to play like that, right? And so you need to prioritize getting him because he's an unrestricted free agent going into free agency. We need to lock him up. He's a priority I'm looking at. Jeremy Chin never really found a role here. At the end of the day, the defense still performed well. So I'm not looking at him to, he's not a somebody I'm looking to lock up right now. But for me, priority to wrap that up, it's got to be Louvu. You figure out what happens to Burns, Derek Brown under contract. Chin, if you lock him up, cool. Not really a priority.
Rashad Beard hosts the Panther Nation podcast. He joins us every Thursday at this time to talk Panther football. Rashad, appreciate you, big fella. We'll do it again next week and see where we're at in the quest for a new HC.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited. Good times. Again, take your small victories, Panthers fans. Take the small wins. Right now, we're heading in the right direction, and that's all we got for right now.
Well, I was going to say, you only got 2 regular ones, so I guess you got to do what you got to do. Rashad, talk to you next week, big fella.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you guys.
See you, big guy. That is Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast. You can follow them on social media at Panther Nation PC. Make sure you are subscribed to their YouTube channel. And for those of you that joined us from the Panther Nation PC Army, you're welcome to stick around. Go search The Rob Brown Show on YouTube. Click the watch live button because we ain't done. We got NFL playoffs to talk, college basketball to talk, and a whole lot more on The Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Mark told me to go ahead.
What's that?
Mark told me to go.
Okay.
We got 5 minutes. You good to come around here?
Yeah.
Everything's all set up.
Okay.
I hate leaving.
Oh, you're good, man. All right, guys, we're going to switch around the desk, so we're going to step away for just a minute. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. All right, y'all, we are back. Lonzo had to take off because he feels like crap. So you're stuck with me for the rest of the show because I'm multi-talented, multifaceted, and other multi-things. But now you guys are all responsible to helping me finish this show up. So I expect the chat to be very active for the rest of the ride. Hey, he's not quite that bad, Keegan. He's not quite that bad. I don't think he's dead yet. Oh, I got to change one thing. Give me 30 seconds. Okay, I think we're set. We're going to find out.
Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213.
What a wonderful angle, yeah? All right, let's go to work, kids. All right, ladies and gentlemen, off we go. The Rob Brown Show continues right here on the Fan Upstate. I am Rob Brown. Lonzo taking off back to the house. He not feeling great. He tried to soldier on, but you know, when you hurt, you're hurt, man. Greatest football coaches will tell you there is a difference between being hurt and being injured. Lonzo is injured right now, but he came in, he tapped the sign, he gave it the old collegiate try, and he's gone. But that's all right. We appreciate the effort, as we always do. 844-326-3663 is the number, 844-FANFONE, if you want to call in and get on the air. The text line, I got to open up the text line, don't I? Now that I'm on a different computer, I got to open up the text line, man. If you want to jump in on the text line, you are certainly welcome to do it. It's 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them out. I got to turn the music. What are you doing, Rob? Turn the damn music off. All right. You know, hey, listen, sometimes you got to ask the closer to start. Sometimes you got to ask the middle reliever to move to the back end of the rotation. Sometimes you got to bring in the starter in a game 7 to close them out. All right. And when you do, it's a change in responsibilities. They got to get caught up. All right. Join us again, 844-326-3663. Text us 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the air. I have got more things to talk about. But my show prep is on the other side of the desk, so you'll just have to hang with me until I can get over there and bring my computer over here, and then we'll be good to go. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, we are obviously talking about a few different things. In the world of sports. Nick Saban retired 17 years at the University of Alabama, including a fistful and then 2 more national championships. When it's all said and done, the big concern right now amidst the Clemson fans is that Dabo Swinney is being named as a very likely but possible, but unlikely, if you ask me, replacement for Nick Saban at the University of Alabama. I have told you, if you believe the narrative about Dabo Swinney at Clemson, that narrative being that he does not like or approve of the transfer portal, he does not want to use the transfer portal, and that Dabo Swinney, while allowing it to happen, is not a big fan of NIL because, hey, that just makes us NFL junior. If those things are true, Clemson won't have to worry about him leaving. You won't have to worry about him taking off and going to Alabama because while the discussion has been, will Dabo want to go to Alabama? To me, the discussion becomes, would Alabama want Dabo Swinney to come to them? And the answer would be, honestly, probably not. Probably not. Like I said earlier, Dabo's biggest problem, based on what he has said on radio shows and what's not, is the entitlement of Clemson Tiger fans. They feel entitled to be included in the playoff picture every year. And it is absolutely fine to have heightened expectations, right? Especially when those heightened expectations have been met for 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 consecutive seasons. You should have high expectations. But Dabo's point is there is a difference between high expectations and visions of trophies dancing in your head. Those are two very different things that you have to justify, rectify within your own noggin, yeah? And if Dabo has a problem with an entitled fan base, if Dabo has a problem with the portal, and if Dabo has a problem with NIL, dude, Alabama's the last place in the world that he fits, to use the expression that has been used so many times. Does Dabo fit at Alabama? Well, if those 3 things are true, he does not like entitled fan bases, he does not like the portal, and he does not like NIL, it won't matter if Dabo wants to go to Alabama. What will matter is what if Alabama wants Dabo to come to them. And in that case, the answer would be no. Right now, the answer is no. Because what made Nick Saban great? Every time Nick Saban had a problem with something going on in the land of college football, he said, is this what we want? And when America said, yes, this is what football is now, Nick went out and figured out how to be the best in the world at that thing. Nick Saban went out and figured out how he was going to be better at that thing than everybody else. Would anyone right now like to try and tell me that is an apt description of Dabo Swinney? I'm going to guess probably not. Just a guess, though. I guess we're going to do a sports flash. Look, this is me multitasking. It's the end of an era in Tuscaloosa, Alabama after 17 seasons. Wow, I can read. And 6 national championships. College football legend Nick Saban is calling it a career. Saban got his first coaching job at Toledo in 1970. Actually, that's Kent State. Way to go, idiot who wrote this. Along with his 7 national championships, Saban leaves with 11 SEC titles, 2 Bear Bryant Coach of the Year trophies, 2 Walter Camp Awards, a George Munger Award, a Bobby Dodd Award, 2 AP Coach of the Year Awards, 5 SEC Coach of the Year Awards, and a litany of other hardware. Clemson failed to end their 2-game losing streak on the hardwood, dropping their 3rd in a row to Virginia Tech last night. 4 Tigers tallied 10 total or more, but it was Clemson's defense that took a hit, allowing the Hokies to shoot 55% from the floor, 54% from 3. Tech also out-rebounded the Tigers 35-28. Clemson plays Boston College on Saturday. That's your Sports Flash. We're back with more of the Rob Brown Show after this. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. If only whoever wrote that sports flash would be better at it. Ugh. All right, I got to switch over and grab my PC so that I can see the rest of my show prep. I will be back in mere moments from now. Don't go anywhere because I need you desperately for the next hour. Be right back. All right, dudes and dudettes, we are back. Thank you, James. Thank you so much. And also, for the record, the Sports Flash is not written in cursive. It is written in all caps so that it is easier to read. That makes it more embarrassing, doesn't it? Whoops. Don't judge me, all right? I'm doing like 11 jobs over here. Get off me, dog. No, Keegan, cursive is not hard to read. In fact, if you look at the stories that I've been posting about the shows over the couple of days, it's very easy to read. I'm sorry that whatever school you went to didn't teach you how to read cursive, man. But Lonzo asked me specifically to type those in all caps because they're easier to read on the fly at his age. His words, not mine. That's not me being mean. That's what he told me. I will be at the game Friday, James. I will be at the game on Friday. Thank you for thank you for Keegan both openly mocking me and then also playing the role of my my manager. That's not even sarcastic. I need it. Yes, I will be at the game Friday, James. So, when you see me inevitably running around the stadium like a psychopath, please feel free to stop me and say hello. I've had a lot of people that are like, Rob, you walked right by me. Why didn't you say hi? Dude, I run a lot. Please stop me. I dig it, man. I will, but are you guys going to be down in the tunnel? Are they bringing y'all down in the tunnel for the pregame intro or anything? Because if they are, that's where I'll be, and I'll definitely see you. And away we go, ladies and gentlemen, the final hour of the Thursday edition of the Rob Brown Show gets underway right now. Hello, America. What up? Upstate South Carolina. Howdy, world. Great to be back with you. I am Rob Brown, flying solo for the final 60. As Lonzo is taking off for that, a little under the weather is the great one. So he has had to... he's had to justifiably and understandably take a break. He will rejoin us, hopefully, fingers crossed, tomorrow, but I'll let you know. I got a bunch of stories I want to get to during the back 60 of the show. And yes, folks, as we are now inside of a couple of months away from the beginning of the NASCAR season, there are two that I would like to talk about very briefly. Now, don't panic. I'm not going to talk racing right this second. We got plenty of time for that. When the Super Bowl of NASCAR, the Daytona 500, fires up in less than 2 months. I do want to talk about something else because I do think it is something that in 2024 pertains to everything in the world of sports. Back in November of last year, in a story that we told you about here on this very radio broadcast, NASCAR signed themselves an enormous 7-year media rights deal. And that 7-year media rights deal checked in with a valuation of north of $1 billion. It was, as we in the business call it, fat stacks. Oh, I'm sorry. I said $1 billion. $7.7 billion. Yeah, that sport. NASCAR, you know that sport, NASCAR? Where they drive the cars in circles and sometimes not in circles. $7.7 billion. Man, I got to put this computer somewhere closer. You guys on the stream know what I'm talking about. All right. $7.7 billion worth of a media rights deal. It is a extension of the $1.1 billion agreement that they signed with the CW. That agreement is wrapped up in that $7.7 billion investment. And then I want to tag that onto another story. Last season for NASCAR, and again, if you're not a NASCAR fan, stick with me because I promise this applies to your sport of choice. last season during the NASCAR stock car playoffs, race-offs, whatever you want to call it, there were 16 stock car teams that were in contention for a championship. And during the playoffs themselves, Netflix sent a bunch of camera crews with the teams that were in the playoff hunt. And they filmed a docu-series that covered week by week the race for the NASCAR Cup Championship. The docu-series, which they produced, is set to drop in the next few days. And I, for one, as a stock car enthusiast, am actually pretty excited about this docu-series. It follows a number of drivers across their race through the playoffs, leading up to the NASCAR Championship being distributed at the end of the season. Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Ross Chastain, Tyler Reddick, as well as other drivers all involved in this docuseries. And I'm really excited about it. I have been saying since the F1 docuseries that Netflix produced a couple of years ago that NASCAR needed to do this, okay? F1 did it. When F1 did it, it took off. I have friends who were not racing people, right? That, for whatever reason, ended up getting into F1 via this documentary. They watched the documentary, they started getting invested, and now the next thing you know, they're waking up at like 5 a.m. on a Sunday to watch an F1 race taking place in Germany or Australia or whatever else. It is a large part of the reason that all of the sudden F1 is having races in Las Vegas and Miami, street race, Chicago, or wherever else they're doing it, right? And I said, NASCAR needs to do this. They need to jump on this because there's a lot of compelling drama in NASCAR. And how many times have I told you, sports is something that we love for two reasons. Number one, we love to watch outrageous people performing outrageous acts that we can only dream about doing. The second thing sports needs to be successful, the second reason that we love sports is drama. And I know we all love to say, I hate drama, but you don't. We all love the tea. We always have. Sports is drama. Even if it's a single game, a team with the ball down 7, 1 minute, 45 seconds to play, 75 yards between them and the goal line, that is not something that heightens our excitement because we just love football. It's the drama of that moment. It's the drama. Can the offense figure it out? Can the defense come up with the big play? It's the drama of that moment that keeps us coming back for more. NASCAR is doing what a lot of other sports had figured out, which is we're going to introduce you to the drama behind the drama. I have on and off over the years watched HBO's Hard Knocks. I thought when Hard Knocks began, I thought it was a real good show. I thought it was really interesting. I thought over the years, it got a little predictable, a little watered down. And I understand teams want to protect themselves from bad optics. Right? The name of the game in entertainment is your brand. Part of the reason that you get the same show from me every day, you guys, if I'm doing my job, in my estimation, you guys will never, or at least if it's up to me, never be able to tell whether Rob Brown is having a great day or a boat day. You won't know. Because I built a brand of show that has carried me for this long. It got me this job. It got me here. that is, even if you're having a bad day, you can come here and I'll try to help you not have a bad day. It's excitement. It's excitement. It's upbeat. It's energetic. It's audio caffeine, right? That's the goal. And so even if I am having an absolute boat day, I don't want you to know that because branding is the most important thing. So NFL teams have started, I think, to kind of pull back when the cameras are on them for Hard Knocks. But in this most recent episode, because we're doing the in-season version of Hard Knocks and cameras are following around the Miami Dolphins, which, talk about a team that's got some drama. That's a team that for a number of weeks until the very last few weeks of the season was the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. And then all of a sudden the wheels have come off. They've got injuries. I mean, there is drama in the Sunshine State right now. And during an episode of Hard Knocks, they actually filmed Mike McDaniels giving a speech to the team after they got hammered by the Baltimore Ravens. And I watched that speech Monday morning before the show started. And I was ready to run through a damn wall for Mike McDaniel. I don't even like the Miami Dolphins. I don't dislike the Dolphins. When Miami's playing their best, I'm actually kind of a fan. I like a wide open offense. But when I watched that speech, I was ready to run through a wall. There's drama there. It's compelling. I like that NASCAR's getting involved here. I like that NASCAR is going to give us a little bit of behind the scenes because NASCAR is a sport that is filled with drama. Every year we have drivers calling other drivers names. We have drivers and crew chiefs and pit crew getting into fist fights in front of the garage. It's full of it. And they're going to put this on display. This is something that I have been advising sports leagues, athletic associations, etc., to do for years. Let us see the drama, the human element of the sports, because it's going to hook us even more, right? That is something that is going to get us involved even more. It is one thing to see Kyle Busch out there turning left at Homestead, Miami to close out the season. It is another thing to see Kyle Busch out there turning laps trying to run down the number 9 car when I know that last week they had words and those words had to be bleeped because they were getting after each other. Now all of a sudden, I'm way more interested. I'm way more intrigued. F1 didn't see its audience skyrocket in the United States because of the documentary turning a bunch of people into race tacticians. If you ask the majority of people who became F1 fans after that documentary aired, they didn't become F1 fans that you can go, hey, what's the generally accepted tire pressure when they race whatever racetrack? They don't know that. They know that one time that Lewis Hamilton said that thing to whoever, and those two guys are now in a battle trying to take each other out. Now, that's what we're intrigued by. So for a sport, listen, NASCAR is a super niche sport, right? You either like it or you don't. And for most of us that like it, we either were brought up in it or we got connected to somebody who had a passion for it that spilled over and imprinted on us. But as a stock car racing enthusiast, I will also tell you, I am probably more compelled by the driver storylines and the drama than I am by good racing. I love good racing. I will sit there and call a race with the best of them. But give us a drama. And I think this is great. I think the documentary is great. I think that's a big deal. On top of that, a $7.7 billion media rights package does two things. Number one, it is a massive influx of cashola, y'all. Straight cash, homie, into a sport that probably needs it. And number two, it means that you're going to see the content spread out over a wider area. You're not just going to see NASCAR that alternates between two channels on cable You're going to see it start to show up more in social media packages. You're going to start to see it show up more on other channels that don't have the race that weekend, but they are going to provide you with NASCAR content because they paid for it. They have the right to do it. They want you invested so that in 3 weeks when they are televising that race, the people watching that channel are kind of like, all right, I'll tune in. I'll give this a shot. I do have one concern. If you were to graph out the number of sources of content versus the amount of attention that fans have to pay to a sport, or the willingness to go from source to 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 find content, or, and maybe most importantly, the amount of money that they have to subscribe to multiple sources to get their content. There is a point where those two lines, the amount of money, the amount of sources available to watch content, and the amount of interest, time, or money that people are willing to pay into finding that content, there's a point that those two lines intersect on a graph. There is a point on that graph where more sources is actually bad because you're adding sources, but you're adding sources that aren't going to get the look because people are already maxed out. Right? I counted a month ago, I pay right now for like 11 different streaming sources. I got HBO, I got Peacock, I got Hulu, I got Netflix, I got ESPN Plus, I got Fox Sports Plus, I got this, I got that. I got NFL Plus, I got NBA Plus, I got all the pluses. I'm plus pluses. I am plussed everywhere. And I have hit the point where I am going, not only can I not pay for more subscriptions, I have got to pay for less subscriptions. I got a wedding coming up. I'm a year and a half from 40. Like, I got to start being, what's the word? An adult. And so if NASCAR starts putting up more and more sources, if there's a NASCAR Plus, man, I got choices to make, right? I got choices to make. I love that they have a $7.7 billion media rights package that is going to put NASCAR in front of a lot more faces moving forward. That is, and I mean it, very good for the sport. That's a great thing for the sport. But I wonder, where is the line where you got too much out there? Where you're putting too much out, you're putting so much out there that people either A, can't, or maybe worse, are unwilling to keep up. It waters down the content. Now, all of a sudden, all these good things that you have, all these good things that come with a $7.7 billion media package, it's actually hurting you because the numbers start to dwindle. Because if I can't pay attention to everything, it's hard to pay attention to little things and feel like I see the big picture. And if that's the case, and I can't keep up, I check out. I do this with TV shows all the time. I get involved. I like 3 or 4 or 5 episodes. And then the next thing you know, I got 19 things going on. I file 4, 5, 6 episodes behind. And now that show is lost to me. I can't come back because I don't know what the hell's going on. It's a risky run. And that's true of college football. It's true of the NFL, adding a game that you have to have Peacock for. The more you start doing that, the more you make it where you got to go to 9 or 10 or 12 or 20 different sources to be able to feel like you got the big picture, the more difficult you make it for people to see the big picture. And the more difficult it's going to be for those people to feel like they are fully invested into your product. We got to take a break. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right, we did it. Segment of the break. How about it? Hang on, coming right back. All right, give me 30 seconds. I'll be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. right, y'all. We're back. Thanks for hanging out, man. Thanks. There's plenty of good live local wrestling, buddy. A lot of good amateur stuff. I'm trying to get in with one right now. I want to be a ring announcer / manager. Take one bump a year. All right, what do y'all want to get to? This is ordinarily where we would do Fight Club. And I can, because Lonzo left his Fight Club stuff. So we can do Fight Club, or we can do something else. What do y'all want to talk about? We can do more Nick Saban, more Bill Belichick, more Pete Carroll. Drop us a comment. Let me know what you want to get to here. I got 2 segments to kill off. Talk Josh Allen, says notable Bills fan Kevin. I respect that. I respect. Talk about my team. Would you rather be a face manager or heel? James, heel, easy. I've done a little bit of it in the past. I did spot work for a small company down in the Florida Panhandle years ago. And I got to do a couple of years as a face and a couple of years as a heel. And I will tell you that being a face and not just being another generic face is kind of tough to do, right? Because, you know, if you play a classic face, you're kind of obligated just to be John Cena, right? Take your vitamins, say your prayers, have respect, earn respect. Like, it gets kind of boring. Being a heel is where you get to just relentlessly mock the people who are there. I enjoyed being able to lean over the ring ropes and just say mean things about the people that were there, with the only issue with it being knowing that later on that evening I was going to take a discus lariat from the face who was going to put me in my place so all those people could cheer again. But being able to just go, your sports teams stink, this city is worthless. What do you get when you put all of the cheerleaders of your school in a room together, a full set of teeth? That's always fun. That's always fun. Yeah, I mean, look, you saw that happen with Cena, right? Like after a while, everybody started chanting "Cena sucks" every time he came out because it gets boring. It's great for kids. It's great for kids, but there's a lot of people that, and this is true, I've done the research, aren't kids and kind of get tired of it, right? All right, we're coming back. Well, I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't feel great about doing the Fight Club without the guy who runs the Fight Club, the great one, Lonzo, here. But Lonzo's not here. And if Lonzo's not here and he didn't take the Fight Club intro out of the rotation and the backup fill-in producer, yours truly, didn't see it in time to take it out of the rotation, then I feel like we just have to roll with it, right? We just got to do Fight Club at this point. Before we get to a little professional wrestling here in just a minute from right now, there is a boxing story, a genuine, legitimate, authentic, I actually care boxing story. Former UFC heavyweight champion turned professional boxer Francis Ngannou plans to fight Anthony Joshua in March and then Tyson Fury in October. Why, Rob, are you interested in this fight? Don't you dislike former MMAers getting into the boxing game? I don't dislike it. What I dislike is when former MMAers get into the boxing game for the paycheck, not for the sport. Yeah? I don't have a problem, like I don't with football or basketball or soccer or baseball or any other sport that I love. I do not have an issue with athletes doing a sports and doing that sports for the sports paycheck. I don't have any issue with that. It's a job. And at the end of the day, as we talked about earlier, when somebody wrote a text into the show and was complaining about the fact that Dabo could use the Alabama opening to leverage more cha-ching up out of the Clemson Tigers athletic department, I said, are you guys mad that Dabo Sweeney is going to try to get paid more for his job? Because I don't know about you, but I would like to be paid more for my job. In fact, I would even be willing to wager a guess here. I'd be willing to wager a guess here and say that the overwhelming majority of you guys would like to. In fact, I would almost say consensus across the board. If I did a survey of every member of the Rob Brown Armada out there right now, listening to this show or any show ever, I'd be willing to bet that roughly 100% of you would like more money for the job. So I don't have an issue with athletes from the world of MMA jumping over into boxing. The issue I have is when they do it only for the paycheck. The issue I have is when they take away from the sport. And honestly, I would not even care, except for I am fully aware that a sport that I love in boxing, a sport that I have followed for many years, a sport that I worked in. In fact, my first big boy media job in the world of sports, as I have said multiple times on this show because I'm a name dropper, was working for Roy Jones Jr., in my opinion, the greatest pound for pounder of all time. I spent time working for RJJ because I loved boxing and I got the opportunity, so I ran with it. And so a lot of these cats, like Conor McGregor, when they move over, they are damaging a sport that I love that is already in trouble. It is a sport that I love that is already floundering. And these guys kind of make a mockery of it. And for the record, I hold the boxers who box them accountable as well. Floyd Mayweather fighting Conor McGregor was a joke. I don't care if Floyd is old and not that guy anymore. You damage the sport because what happens is people tune into those fights that maybe aren't boxing fans. And they think that's what boxing is, and it's not. It never has been. But they think that's what it is, and then maybe they get hooked. This is the fight I've had with Lonzo many times. And this one has been more about, for instance, the Paul brothers. But people, kids, YouTube kids, tune into those fights thinking this is boxing. And then they get hooked, and then they go watch an actual card, and they go, this is boring. This is boring. It's not. It's not. This is the sport. What those guys are doing is glorified YouTubing. What these guys are doing is the sport. This is what boxing is, was, and should be. Francis Ngannou's not in that camp to me. Francis Ngannou is probably the one guy out of the entire MMA world that has started to jump over and do boxing as a, let's call it what it is, a side hustle. Francis Ngannou seems like the one guy who bona fide wants to be a boxing superstar. Bona fide wants to be the guy, wants to be the man, wants to be a heavyweight champ. His first fight, he looked like a boxer. As somebody who loves the game, who loves the sport, I tuned into that fight. It is probably, and I'm racking the old noggin to come up with another one, but I think it is probably the only fight of a former MMA champ turned boxer that I was like, yeah, I'll pay for that. I'll tune in for that. I will take I'm not going to show up on YouTube the next day looking for the highlight, air quote, highlights. I'm actually going to watch that fight because I'm intrigued. When I saw the camp and Ngannou was going through and the prep he was putting in, I was like, all right, let me give it a shot. And he looked like a boxer. I like Francis Ngannou taking on Anthony Joshua. In fact, based on what I saw in his first fight, I think Francis Ngannou can beat Anthony Joshua. Now, it's a step up in degree of difficulty because Anthony Joshua is a genuinely talented boxer who does not lean specifically and only on knockout punches. Anthony Joshua is going to make you fight him. He is going to make you box him. And I think that's good. He went up against Tyson Fury. And I know I'm saying it's a step up. The only reason why is I thought Tyson Fury did not look anywhere near his best in that fight. It looked like Tyson Fury took that as a payday fight, and in the third round, when Ngannou put him on his ass, he was like, it's a real fight. This guy actually came to beat me. Tyson Fury had to fight his gigantic butt off down the stretch to earn a split 95-94, 96-93, 94-95 decision, and a decision that is highly controversial. Highly controversial. A lot of people thought Francis Ngannou won the fight. I actually did think Tyson Fury won the fight, but like barely. Like a point. Like I would have had it 95-94. Anthony Joshua has two things. Number one, he's a very technical fighter, even as a big boy. And number two, he's now got Francis Ngannou on tape. He's now got him on tape. He's got game film on that guy now. So you're not going to catch up and surprise him. All right, a couple of thoughts on pro wrestling before we take a break. I'm going to run through Lonzo's topics. Topic number one, is Nick Aldis the best GM in pro wrestling? Yes. Nick Aldis is doing a great. When Nick Aldis showed up, I'm like, all right. Like I've seen Nick Aldis before as a wrestler, and he as a wrestler was kind of boring, to be honest with you. Kind of bland, kind of vanilla. As a GM, he's perfect. It's the exact same character. but he's perfect. And that moment, after once again, Roman and his gang came out and interrupted a fight that we were all very excited about, that three-way between Randy Orton, AJ Styles, and LA Knight. Yeah. When they hit the angle of Aldis telling Heyman, hey, tell him congratulations, he's got a fatal four-way with all three of these guys now. It's the first time that I went, they could take the belt off of Roman with this fight. They could take the belt off of Roman Reigns, and Aldis's delivery to Heyman, while Roman is in the background of the camera celebrating in the ring. Bro, that was TV gold. That was TV gold. That was a fan-freaking-tastic moment. A fantastic moment. It also highlights how good this product is going to be without Kevin Dunn there anymore. The fact that we didn't get 90 different camera cuts while Aldis was talking. Roman's face, Paul's face, Nick's face, Paul's face, Roman's face, Nick's face, Paul's face, Roman's face. The fact that they had that angle, it was a cinematic angle. It was great. R-Truth is the best thing to happen to professional wrestling ever. His little tribute film of how he told, the day he was born, he told the doctor he was going to be in Judgment Day. It was incredible. It was incredible. That dude is, like, as comedy wrestlers go, R-Truth is going to be at the top of that list forever. Forever. All right, I got more. You know what? I'm gonna save the rest of this because I feel dirty doing it without the great one. I just do. He's got a bunch of other stuff. Cody v. Shinsuke, Jinder Mahal's controversy involving Tony Khan of AEW. Tony, keep your mouth shut, dude. Listen, I get it. You got to get eyes on the product, and going after their product is the right way. The problem is you also need to have a crossover audience. You need to have people who are wrestling fans who want to watch both products, right? You've got to have those people as well. This is not, it's not a sustainable business model to think AEW is just going to have its own core fans, and you need the crossover. So getting into a you-know-what measuring contest with them on Twitter, you're not going to help yourself, right? You need people who are not AEW fans but are curious to come over, and that's not going to get it done, my guy. That's not going to get it done. All right, the rest of this stuff we'll save for next week. Texter said, Rob, please explain to me how I turned you guys on this morning and y'all are talking NASCAR. Guys, this isn't hard. Thank you, Texter. I appreciate the text. You're right. Which is why I did 3 hours of sports talk before I got to that story. I did 3 hours talking Nick Saban retirement, talking Pete Carroll getting the boot, Bill Belichick getting the boot, talking about whether or not Dabo was an Alabama candidate or not, and why I don't think he is, and why I don't think it's not that he's not interested, but I don't think Bama's going to be interested in him, talking about the fact that Dan Lanning is currently in Tuscaloosa interviewing, ? According to an NBC affiliate out of Eugene, Oregon. I talked about all of that, and then I took like 11 minutes to talk NASCAR, a sport that, by the way, has its heart in the Carolinas, and that there are a lot of fans of in this area. I know that because I have talked to them. We got to take a break. We'll come back, and we wrap this bad boy up. My name is Rob Brown. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, give me just a second. I will be right back. Don't go anywhere, please, and thank you. right, guys, I'm back. Thanks for hanging out as we enter our final segment. There we go. Oh, it's because it hugs the belly. Got it now. That makes sense. They already, James, lost a 5-star recruit who decommitted like minutes after Saban got announced as retiring. And with the coach leaving, there is now a 30-day transfer window opening for people on the roster already. So I can promise you there are some Mike Norvells that are already working the phone line. Shador Sanders, I'm going to talk about this when we come back. I'm glad you brought it up. Shador Sanders tweeted out Alabama players tap in like minutes after that happened, which is hilarious to me. Oh, man. I need a nap, you guys.
From the Ingalls Market Studio, the Fan.
Upstate, 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg.
Live from the Free Odyssey app, CBS Sports Radio. Your guide to the gridiron, the maestro of the matchups, and the keeper of all things cool in the sports world. This is the Rob Brown.
Final segment of the Thursday edition of the Rob Brown Show goes now, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back in. It is the Fan Upstate. I am Rob Brown. Zoe under the weather. He will hopefully rejoin us tomorrow if he's feeling better. We'll see. Thank you guys for hanging out with me on a Thursday morning. Couple more thoughts on the departure of one Nicholas Saban from Alabama. There's a couple of other aspects to this. Now, we are obviously going to keep an eye on who they hire. It is being reported right now by KVAL 13 News out of Eugene, Oregon. That is a CBS station. That Dan Lanning, the head coach of the Oregon Ducks, is currently in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Dan Lanning, of course, I'm going to speculate, not amongst the list of people who would think Tuscaloosa is a fabulous January vacation spot, which means that Dan Lanning is probably down there talking to Greg Burns, the AD at Alabama, about their vacated Alabama head coaching position. First off, that is a wonderful interview. Dan Lanning and what he's done at Oregon has been ridiculous. If he takes that job, it would also mean that the Oregon Ducks are about to go on, what is it, head coach number 7 in the last 9 years. And barely any of them have succeeded after they've left Oregon, but all of them have succeeded at Oregon, which is wild to me. But that's an interesting development as Oregon prepares to transition into the Big Ten. But again, a lot of college football fans don't want to hear this. The University of Alabama is the most prestigious coaching job in America because of Nick Saban. So him interviewing, him wanting that job is not surprising. You got it pretty good in Eugene. You got Phil Knight in your back pocket. That's a pretty good thing to have going on for you as far as being able to put resources on the table. But it is Alabama. It's pretty much unlimited resources there, right? Now, there's another aspect, another angle to this conversation that I think it is important we discuss on our live stream at facebook.com/thefanupstate, twitter.com/thefanupstate, or by searching and subscribing to The Rob Brown Show on Twitch or YouTube. James asked, I wonder how many Alabama players decommit or enter the portal now. Well, you will recall that because Alabama played in the college football playoff game, Alabama players had until January 6th to enter the transfer portal. Now, with Nick Saban retiring, they actually have even longer. There is now a 30-day transfer window extension. Alabama players can now spend an extra 30 days in the portal. Whenever there's a head coaching change, a firing, a retirement, or if a head coach takes another job, players at that school get a 30-day window to freely enter the transfer portal. That is actually, to be honest, one of my favorite things about the transfer portal, because I do believe that if a college football coach is allowed to come and go at their leisure, then the players should have the exact same right. So 30 days in, here's what's interesting. According to the 24/7 talent composite, Alabama right now has more 5-star recruits on their roster than the entire Big Ten does. You know what that means, don't you? What that means right now is there's a lot of people with direct links to NIL collectives across America that are going through the couch cushions looking for any spare change that they can throw into the pot in order to make a run at some of these guys. Shedeur Sanders, the son of Dion, the quarterback at Colorado, tweeted out last night, minutes after Saban's retirement was announced, quote, Alabama players tap in. So, it is going to be a real interesting spot. And part of the reason, I suspect, part of the reason that I have said I think Alabama already knew who their guy was. There's a reason Dan Lanning is in Tuscaloosa less than 12 hours after Nick Saban retired. And that reason is they were on the phone with him already. They're like, hey, we know he's gone, and we want you to be the guy. Why don't you come down? Why don't you plan on being there the day after the call? I have no doubt that that is what happened. No doubt at all that's what happened. And if that is the case, Dan Lanning's the guy. And they need that guy. They need that guy quickly so that he can go talk to the roster and go, hey, guys, you don't have to leave. I got you. Look what I did at Oregon. The only team that beat us was the eventual runners-up. We got this. I find that compelling. What did I say earlier? Athletic competition and drama. That's it for us. Y'all have a lovely rest of your Thursday. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again, but better for Lonzo. My name is Rob Brown. Have a lovely rest of your day. Don't drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face. See you back here tomorrow on The Rob Brown Show with a Fan Upstate. Later. Yeah. All right, dudes, I apologize that I got to run so quick, but I got to run so quick because I now have to do all the Lonzo work, which includes counting, numbers, and math. And those are things that I'm very bad at, so I got to dial in. Appreciate you guys hanging out. You're awesome. Thank you for helping me with this last hour of the show. I really do appreciate it. For those of you I'll see tomorrow, I'll see you tomorrow. For those of you I won't, have a great weekend. Goodbye.